What's up, everybody? It is the Dark Conservatarian, and hello, Scorch Volunteer and Sent1000 in the live chat. First couple to say anything. And before I get onto this stream, I guess I must put forth a disclaimer. Emphasis on the fact that I do not dislike Nate the Voluntarist. Had, for the longest time, a good running relationship with him, and even less so do I have anything to dislike against Pluto on. But at the same time, I don't know Pluto as well as Nate, so yeah, it's anyway. I don't have a general problem with these guys, but it's just a little bit of a recent something. And also, if anybody wants to defend either Nate or Pluto or defend the idea of free marketed anti-capitalism, well then announce it in the live chat if you will, and I will set up the StreamYard call for you and give you the link on either Twitter or Discord for you to come on and join. But other than that, yeah, I'm here because there's this is an ongoing argument that me and Nate have been having. Oh, part of my disclaimer. Yeah, I keep on forgetting parts of the disclaimer that I want to say. But third part of the disclaimer is that this is not intended for drama purposes. All right? This is a battle of ideas. I saw, or rather read, whatever, something that I disagree with, and I want to speak my disagreement on it. On that platform being YouTube. Taking it from Twitter to YouTube. But I would be lying if I did not. I'd be lying if I was to outright deny that I did not here and there feel just a little bit snubbed within regards to this debate. But overall, the primary purpose of this live stream is not drama related. It is to respond to something that I disagree with. It is purely about political beliefs. This is purely about the battle of ideas in regards to capitalism. So anyway, I think that's all that I wanted to say as far as the disclaimer goes. So, within recent months, there is something that's been kind of, quite honestly, really grating me about Nate. Like, he had been speaking out more and more against capitalism, which he is his own guy. He can do that, whatever, if he wants to. I don't really care if he does not like the term and whatnot. But I of course, go arguing against him on the term and whatnot. And or I go responding to him as to how I disagree with his takes on the term of capitalism. And we go back and forth, and it just increasingly gets heated up, the argument between us and whatnot. And it's come to a point in which that he got the idea to want to set up a discussion live stream to talk about this with some other anti-capitalists, if you will, with me and some of those other people as well. And possibly even some actual pro-capitalists too. What was I gonna say? But that live stream keeps on getting put off, and so I just have been thinking to myself, man, I'm getting increasingly impatient for this. So I just thought I had to get at least some things off my chest about this whole issue. What I have to say in response and whatnot, fully flesh out my arguments to every bits of the threads that both Nate and Pluto have posted on Twitter going against capitalism. It gone later to a point of not only being about the terminology, the term of capitalism, but there's also some, I guess, practical side of things that really get me raising some questions in my head, like real big questions. And I just want to put them right here and go addressing those. You'll know what I mean once we get to it. But yeah, so here we are, doing my own live stream, responding to some of the arguments in regards of anti-capitalism. Now, and I guess before I go any further, to anyone else who might be a little bit hardline for capitalism, I have not seen any evidence, any explicit evidence anyways, of either Nate, much less Pluto, advocating for violent seizure of private property and the means of production and so forth. So I don't think these guys are becoming a couple of Marxists or whatever. They are just taking this kind of weird belief in which some of it I think really sets a bad precedent for the sake of not capitalism really, because they don't really care for it, obviously, but free markets. Anti-Marxist free markets. So let me see what is going on with the live chat here before I get on with it. Sup, what's going on here, says JC Armitage. Well, I have laid out some of it in the few beginning parts of this live stream, and by the way, Scorch, I don't know about you, but I personally am going to try to make this as unpersonal as possible with Nate. So anyway, I have released my own thesis in regards to capitalism after one of the arguments that me and Nate had. But to say what I think about capitalism and this whole rise in anti-capitalist free marketeers, my tweet goes like this. My Twitter thread goes like this. I don't get of what's with the recent surge of free marketeers calling themselves quote-unquote anti-capitalists recently. I really don't. You may not like the term quote-unquote capitalism, but I don't care, and that's irrelevant to my point here anyway. And until you start embracing forceful seizure of the means of production and private property, I can't take your anti-capitalism moniker seriously. If you want to set up your own hippie commune where somebody voluntarily, collectively shares their stuff or something else rather than to have a business tycoon be the sole owner of it all, I don't care. That doesn't run against capitalism in any practical or meaningful way. So that's the basis of it. And I guess to sort of give a definition or a few definitions of capitalism that run in tangent with my thoughts of capitalism and why I think that you could set up your own socialist hippie commune within capitalism as long as you do not want to seize other people's property, etc. I got 4 different definitions here. The first one is from the Google definitions, which I know a lot of people dismiss. Next one is from Merriam-Webster, which I realize as well has been getting increasingly uncredible. Next one is from dictionary.com. I do not know what people's general opinion about that is. Fourth one is from Investopedia, excuse me. And for my analysis of Investopedia, they are sort of middle of the road. I don't think they're leftists or not explicitly leftist in any meaningful way. In fact, they might be kind of right-leaning. I don't know. Or at least Tim Horn would like to think so, since I cited that in my response video to him, and he's all like, all your sources are invalid. Just throwing poo against the wall, hoping something would stick. But anyway, first definition, an economic and political system in which a country's trade and industry are controlled by private owners for profit rather than by the state. So, nothing wrong with that one, really. It seems to be generally what I think. An economic system characterized by private or corporate ownership of capital goods, by investments that are determined by private decision and by prices, production, and the distribution of goods that are determined mainly by competition in a free market. Now, the only snag that I would have with this little definition is the whole corporate ownership part of it. I mean, I've heard all the arguments from anarchists saying that corporatism is not an inherent part of free markets or capitalism for that matter. That corporates are only an entity because they are being explicitly propped up by the government, but I don't know. Somebody would have to give me an explicit definition in regards of a corporation, not corporatism, because corporatism is, ironically enough, a tism in of itself. It's plutocracy, basically. Favoring one company over another to sort of boost up your rich donors, etc., etc. But the idea of a corporation existing, like, what's the definition explicitly, specifically of corporation? I don't think I've ever really seen anybody give a specific definition of corporation that runs in tangent with what I typically hear of anarchists have to say about corporations. That, you know, a corporation cannot exist without government, etc. That's the only thing, but Merriam-Webster is not the most credible anyway, so moving on. Dictionary.com. An economic system in which investment in and ownership of the means of production, distribution, and exchange of wealth is made and maintained chiefly by private individuals or corporations, especially as contrasted to cooperatively or state-owned means of wealth. So, especially as contrasted. So, that almost, if I was to be reading this correctly, basically what they're saying in the second part of the definition here is that America is capitalism, is capitalist, but in a sort of a way, anyways. In a quasi way, but yeah. And, what was I going to say? Even though it's not the freest of markets, it's still mostly capitalism. Oh, I would not call United States a mostly capitalism, but just going to be running with this definition. My only way of reading that is that they're saying that capitalism is running in tangent at the same time within a nation, the idea of means of production and so forth being cooperatively or state-owned. That both exist within a country. Both aspects, both ways of running a business exist within a country. The one being private ownership of a single individual or a very small group of individuals, and then the one idea of running a business being cooperatively, being like pretty much the whole company running it collectively, or the state owning it just outright. And that's how that they're defining capitalism, is that capitalism could be either the freest of free markets, or it could be free markets running in cooperation in a society with state or collectively owned businesses as well. Now, disagree what you may with that one, but this definition also does not run, if I'm reading it correctly anyways, does not run in contradiction with what I think of capitalism. That that a society can be free market, that is the long and short of how I define capitalism, is free markets. That free markets can exist side by side with collectively owned co-ops and so forth. Now, Investopedia here, it's a little bit of a long article actually, and I would recommend everybody reading it. Maybe I'll actually put this in the description box right after this live stream. But to read just the header of it, the first 3 paragraphs, what is capitalism? Capitalism is an economic system in which private individuals or businesses own capital goods. The production of goods and services is based on supply and demand in the general market, known as a market economy, rather than through central planning, known as a planned economy or command economy. Which that would mean that everything within a society was run by the government, or almost pretty much everything was ran by the government. Now, you could... I do not know if this definition is explicitly saying that they're excluding the idea of a socialist society or whatever being, the means of production being owned just by the mob, the anarchistic mob, as opposed to a state or not, or if they're calling a mob-run economy I'm gonna. That's a little bit of a misnomer. I understand, but I'm just gonna run with it. But a mob-ran economy could also be classified as a command economy at the same time. The purest form of capitalism is free market or laissez-faire capitalism. Agreed. Here, private individuals are unrestrained. They may determine where to invest, what to produce or sell, and at which prices to exchange goods and services. The laissez-faire marketplace operates without checks or controls. Today, most countries practice a mixed capitalist system that includes some degree of government regulation of business and ownership of select industries. So, the way that Investopedia is explaining it is what I always understand capitalism to be. That capitalism isn't inherently government exclusive. It can be government exclusive, like, for example, anarcho-capitalism. But at the same time, capitalism could exist with the smallest bits or even moderate bit of government. But at that point, is the society overall capitalist? I would say it isn't to a certain point. But nonetheless, it's pretty much was my understanding of capitalism from the get-go. And also, in reading the 3 paragraphs right here, there was no explicit exclusion of worker co-ops. Just to say, for example. So, Before I go to reading any more of the Twitter scuffles and the threads, the anti-capitalist threads on Twitter, I'm going to read some of the live chat before I go any further. Scorch volunteers. No, I'm not gonna read that. No offense, Scorch, but I think I'm gonna refrain from reading the chat comments that go explicitly. I don't know. Throwing shade at Nate, but well, actually no. I'll go ahead and read this. It doesn't explicitly go throwing the darkest of shade at Nate. Scorch says, no, my problem is he tell you what you believe when you call yourself an ANCAP. And by yourself, Scorch is meaning anybody who claims himself to be an ANCAP. He's not calling me an ANCAP because it's been clear throughout my entire history on YouTube that I'm not an ANCAP. Just to let everyone know so as that Tim Horn doesn't get away with a fucking straw man of me like he did in his response video to me. The True Grave. Do they directly have to advocate for a property seizure? Yes, that is my belief, True Grave. I prefer to steel man people's arguments, honestly, and their beliefs. Steel man people's arguments and beliefs. True Grave says, does it really matter what term people call themselves when it comes to buying and selling private property? I would say not really. I mean, I guess it kind of makes me standoffish just a little bit when Nate calls him no longer an ANCAP or no longer a capitalist and so forth. But at the same time, I ultimately did not really care about that. Although I did ask him quite a few times, what's wrong with other people calling themselves capitalists? Like, what's wrong with me calling myself a capitalist? He hasn't given me an answer on that front as of yet. If he was to come on this live stream and defend himself, maybe we can get him an answer, but I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it'll be sometime in the future as to what the problem is, if there's a problem, is that he has with people calling themselves capitalists. Although there is a little bit more involved with this argument and so forth than just labels, what people call themselves. So that's why I'm here. Soup Mave 619 Ejiroto is here. All right. JC Armitage, a lot of people like Nate and Pluto see the phrase capitalism as both an anti-concept, meaning that it means contradictory things, as well as that term being co-opted by corporatists loving politicians. Oh yeah, capitalism has been co-opted and botched and all that other stuff plenty of times. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to give up on keeping the term, really. And by extension of that, here's the thing. Anarchists, or rather ANCOMs, why did I say general anarchists? ANCOMs, excuse me, are trying to botch the definition of free market as well. Like, there's this one guy named Rugged Midwesterner. He has a few thousand subscribers. Like, the term of free markets might not be botched as much as the term of capitalism, but all the same, free markets is starting to be botched itself. Does that mean that we should give up on the definition of free markets or the word and term of free markets? I would think not, and I think that Nate would think not. But that's what I have to say in response to the whole we should have banned capitalism because it's botched, because it's been butchered and so forth. But to give forth the specific example here of Rugged Midwesterner saying, giving a botched definition of free markets. He says, basically, he's trying to co-op free markets for himself, or for ANCOM's sake, saying that, God, he says that anarchist capitalists, as he calls them, he says that their definition, supposedly, of free markets is just let the rich people run all over you. Let rich people, like, run basically everything. I forget the exact verbatim quote of what he has to say, but he's basically speaking out against the idea of rich dudes and other business owners being allowed to own what they please. And he's just, yeah, that gives the implication that maybe he advocates for violent seizure, rugged Midwesterner does. But, and at the same time, he strawmans actual free marketeers like Nate, myself, and True Grave, JC Armitage, and, all the rest of us on what we believe. Scorch Volontaire, another one. Um, um, oh god, the live chat decided to scroll all the fucking way down. I did not want that. Someone 1000 says, isn't a corporation a form of government funded? Uh, I think you meant to say government funded business by forced payment of some form. I mean, yeah, it can be defined as that. I don't explicitly know of that definition. Like, can a corporation technically be a thing without? Can a business be defined as a corporation when it gets so big, but it's not funded at all by government, taxpayer dollars and whatnot? I mean, that's my question. Like, is it exclusive of that idea? Corporations, I mean. True grave corporations would not exist as they are now in anarchy, but they would still absolutely exist in some fashion. Yeah, exactly, Grave. I can, well, that's exactly what my question is. Could the definition of corporations include what True Grave just said right there, along with what Sent 1000 just said right there? Could it be one or the other, or both, even? True Grave says, honestly, America is fascist. I mean, it's probably closer to fascism than any true capitalism or socialism, Grave. I think I can overall agree with that. JC Armitage, Set 1000, it's a government granted legal privilege, not something that emerges out of genuine market demand. All right. And someone says, JC, like I said, forced payment of some form, whether it be taxes, monopolies, trademarks, or whatnot. Truegrave says, why are you going over like 5 different definitions? Doesn't matter that much. I'm just giving multiple definitions because I know how other people like to nitpick at the idea that a person gives only one freaking definition of something. Like, for example, I'm going to probably have to give some multiple other definitions of ethnostates to a certain somebody that I was arguing with earlier. True says, so basically, they've defined Keynesian economics. Gotcha. Okay. I mean, to an extent, the 4 definitions are not exclusive of a form of Keynesianism, but they're saying that capitalism is more pure, or at least Investopedia was, the more free it is, the less government intervention there is. So, a social democracy, so let's say, for example, could that be called capitalism by Investopedia's logic? No, I don't think so. But there are some capitalist facets going for it. I mean, yeah, you can't really determine your wage, and some businesses are even fully owned by the government, like healthcare primarily being an example. And you cannot just fire your employees for any reason that you please without some kind of fine. All the invasive OSHA regulations, EPA regulations, and so on and so forth. But ultimately, you still do technically own your business, and you can determine if you want to do an expansion of that building rather than the government tell that business, tell the runners, the managers of that business, hey, expand your building. Otherwise, we're going to fire you and find a new manager or something like that. Maverick says, I'm an anarcho-individualist. I mostly follow good taste like Cory Margara and Ostracize. Okay. All right. So I think that's it for the live chat on almost everything. I guess I'll read these very quickly. Grave says, I'm a Hoppian. Nice to meet you. All right. Well, I got a nice bridge to sell you, DarkCon. It's 100% for real, I swear. Okay. Night Shift 10,000 in the live chat. Nate's sadly going down a bad road. Well, if at any point you want to, I mean, I kind of somewhat agree with that, Night Shift, but all the same, if you at all get the idea that you want to defend Nate on something, then you can ask for a link in the live chat. But for right now, I think I'm going to at least read this one tab that I have open, because I got 4 total tabs, and 3 of them at least are pretty fucking big. Anyway, so this is probably going to just be purely me responding to Nate and Pluto. There's not going to be any article reading in this. Just FYI. Nate the Voluntarist. This is like the one tweet that was sort of starting to give me the idea that maybe possibly I should do a live stream about this. And gave Nate sort of the idea, let's do a live stream about this. He says, I love how ANCAPs are fans of Lysander Spooner, but ignore the fact that he was essentially a mutualist, a free market socialist, and an anti-capitalist. That was Nate. Then I come in responding, sounds like he's not against capitalism in any practical sense. Yeah, and I mean, that's what I said, rewinding back to this tweet right here. I find it really hard to believe that somebody would call themselves anti-capitalist, but still at the same time call themselves free marketeers. Like, I don't care if Nate wants to no longer call himself a capitalist. That's fine. I think I've made that plenty clear to him. Or maybe I did not make it plenty clear. But I thought I at least implied it to him. But it's not the idea that he no longer calls himself a capitalist. It's the idea that he calls himself an anti-capitalist. And yet I still call myself a capitalist. So it almost looks like by the optics of it, like if he was to be, I don't know, declaring capitalists like me as sort of enemies rather than allies. And it just really gets me bothered in a sort of way. Like maybe that's the more touchy-feely drama-related side of this live stream of me saying that I just don't like the fact that he's calling himself an anti-capitalist, but whatever. I still find it, but even that aside though, I still find it ridiculous that somebody would call himself an anti-capitalist yet still pro-free market. Like, free market anti-capitalists, anti-capitalist free marketeers that may be listening right now. What do you want to do about people who still want to run their own business or their society in a sort of capitalist fashion? Like, once government is all gotten rid of, and all you people, and yes, I said you people, and once all you people want to set up your own hippie communes, your worker co-ops, and so forth, what do you want to do about the rich business tycoon down the road from you that keeps all the ownership of that business to himself and maybe has a board of directors and executives to help him run stuff, but overall, the ownership of the company is up to him? What do you want to do about that if you're so anti-capitalist? Do you want to start seizing his business or something? And my assumption is that ultimately they don't want to seize the business tycoon's business and private property and so forth. But when you call yourself an anti-capitalist, that's almost the implication that I get. Fortunately enough, I know Nate and Pluto well enough to know that that's not what they mean when they call themselves anti-capitalists. But if I was to be some stranger, come across them and hear them say that they're an anti-capitalist, I probably think literally that they're a communist. Although then again, call himself free market at the same time. Okay, maybe I would not think that they're a communist, but I probably laugh at the what I would think right then, and even somewhat think right now, is a bit of a contradiction. You call yourself anti-capitalist but free market at the same time. But it's just overall bad optics to call yourself anti, to put the word anti in front of capitalist. It's one thing to call yourself no longer a capitalist. It's a completely other thing to call yourself anti-capitalist. Anyway, so that's what I said to Nate right there. Sounds like he's not against capitalism in any practical sense. And Nate says, yes, he was. I've read his works. And I read an expansion of that question. Is he for forcefully seizing the means of production, private property, etc.? Because that, again, is like the nub of my point. If he's not for forcefully seizing those things, seems like to me that He might call himself supposedly anti-capitalist or no longer capitalist, but he's no longer but he's not anti-capitalist in any practical or meaningful sense. The only practical and meaningful sense that I think that anyone would call themselves an anti-capitalist is if they are for, unironically, going full on Bolshevik on all the businesses. But no, in this case, it just seems like, I don't know, for lack of better wording, virtue signaling. Show that chat comment. Okay. So I go asking that question, and this is kind of, I'm just going to stick to the main argument here. Maybe I'll read Pluto's, but we're going to get to that thread here later that he links. So Nate says that my question is misleading. Benjamin Tucker explains why. And this is the point that really pissed me off here in this thread right here. Like, I think we might have somewhat made up on some things, but at the same time, this seems to be a frustrating thing between me and Nate, is that we sort of talk past each other. And I do not know if this is an example of talking past each other or what. But really, let me just read on. I say, what? Misleading? Are you assuming bad intent on my part? How can my question be misleading? It isn't misleading. I was only asking what his beliefs are. Bad or dishonest intent on my part was what I specifically meant to say. Like, here's the thing. I hate it when somebody says that I go asking, okay, this ain't the first time that I have heard somebody say, you're being dishonest, you're lying, or you're straw manning when somebody just merely asks a question. There's one specific example that I know of somebody being called a liar just for asking a question, but I'm not going to mention that example because I want to leave that bit of drama to the wayside. But during the Ben Shapiro versus Cenk Uygur debate that happened way back in 2017, Ben Shapiro asked a question to Cenk, what do you want the income tax rate to be? I remember explicitly what it is. And Cenk just kept on evading the question, just kept on avoiding it. Eventually, Sahil Habibi, aka the progressive progressive toad. I meant progressive voice, though. Sahil Habibi, the progressive voice, he accused Ben Shapiro of strawmanning Cenk Uygur just because he was asking a question. Asking a question is not strawmanning. Asking a question is not lying. And to Nate here, asking a question is not misleading. The reason why I asked the question was so that I can possibly avoid misleading, being dishonest, or whatever. So it's just frustrating when somebody like goes on along this line. Like, if I was to say, like, okay, is he for forcefully seizing the means of production, private property, etc.? I got asking if that was actually a thing. The only way that my question could really be misleading is if I was to say, why is he for forcefully seizing the means of production and private property, etc.? Because that question implies that I'm basically implying a statement of fact that he is for forcefully seizing the means of production and private property, etc. But I'm asking the reason as to why that is. If I was to ask why, then my question would be misleading. But no, I wasn't asking why. I was asking, is that really the case? God. Anyway, that's what I have to say on that front. No more branching out of the tweets here. Nate the Voltaire said, I provide source and it's like you're not even reading them. And I'm going to be honest, Nate, if you ever go watching this. Here's my problem. Like, I'm not a strong reader at all. I'm not a fast reader. So, of course, I wasn't going to get to the articles right then and there. I wasn't going to be able to read them in the same day and then get back to the Twitter fight. And I would have preferred not having to just leave the Twitter fight or Twitter debate, argument, whatever, alone until I fully read them and then respond to what you had to say. And for the record, Nate, I have read the articles, both articles fully myself. But I still wanted to, at the moment, go engaging on the discussion. Like, what's the matter with me doing that and saving the reading of the sources for later? I mean, anyway, DarkCon, this is me, and I say, and I'm asking simple questions, and it's like you're not even answering them. I don't have the time for right now to read them, but in the meantime, I ask a question, nothing wrong with that, and you say it's misleading. And Nate says, just read what I provide when you have the time and come back and tell me what you found out, and I'll be more than happy to clarify anything you don't understand. And I ask, are you going to answer my question? Nate says, spoiler alert on the sources I provide for you, no. DarkCon, and I say, as in he's not foreseeing what all I mentioned earlier? If so, then that is what I mean by he's not an anti-capitalist in any meaningful or practical sense. More importantly, why I think it's not ironic for ANCAPs to like Spooner, which was the main thing that this his original tweet was about, was he's basically implying, or even outright saying, that he thinks it's ironic for an anarcho-capitalist to be quoting, respecting, and liking Lysander Spooner. But Nate says, if Spooner were still alive, you would get into quite an argument with him. Same with Benjamin Tucker, Joshua K. Engels, Voltaire de Cleyre, or Pierre Joseph Proudhon. So basically, he's not denying what I said. So it seems like I basically steelmanned his answer to me, Nate's answer, and steelmanned what the positions are of Spooner. And I don't care, and that's not an argument. I say, Nate says, I'm telling you how it is, whether you like it or not. If you don't want to read what I provided and do research, then I don't want to talk to you about this anymore. And I say, I'm not refusing to read your articles. Calm down, Nate. Why are you so mad right now? Or irritated, or whatever negative attitude you want to say you have right now. The later tweets are, in large part, irrelevant, mostly because of the fact that things kind of calmed down a bit between me and Nate, but still I had to get in response of the arguments themselves. But rewinding back a little bit, about the sources, Nate, if you are listening, I've read both of them, the Praxeology one and the Anarchist Library one, and honestly, Anarchist Library, when I got reading that, Lysander Spooner was not, I did not read any implication even, much less an explicit statement that Lysander Spooner was not for forcefully seizing the means of production. So even if I was to put a pin in this conversation right now, then, and I came back to you later after I read it, my question would have still not been answered, Nate. My question would have still not been answered. And I would have asked you the same question. Is Lysander Spooner for forcefully seizing X, Y, and Z? And you say he's not. And here's another thing that I have a problem with Lysander Spooner. It seems that he unironically believes in the concept of wage theft, or slave labor, rather. So far, I personally am getting a bad impression of Lysander Spooner. Like, even if he does not advocate for forcibly seizing the means of production, the fact that he unironically says that, wage slavery, wage theft, either one of those, it puts forth a very bad precedent. If you use those terms, then the Marxists are going to feel emboldened and legitimized in their seizure of other people's businesses. So it's just a bad precedent. Excuse me. And I have a little bit of arguing going on the live chat right now. So FYI, people, I might not read most of your live chat comments. So anyway, but and by extension of Spooner, the fact that I read that he believes in wage theft and wage slavery, or labor theft rather, that almost implies to me that maybe he's at least open to the idea of forcefully seizing the means of production. But I don't know though. But I don't know that for a fact, so I'm not going to state it as such. That I know for certain. And then he linked praxeology. This is more relating to Benjamin Tucker. And when I go on reading that article, that little piece of literature, it does seem clear to me that Benjamin Tucker is against forcefully seizing the means of production. Because in that praxeology article, page, whatever, there are three different people that the writer goes centering their article around. Karl Marx, Proudhon, and Benjamin Tucker. Karl Marx, of course, everybody knows, advocated for forceful seizure of the means of production and so forth. In fact, he even advocated that the government should do such. But Tucker and Proudhon, they seem to, credit to them, believe that no, that should not be the route that we do to get our mutualist society. Like these three philosophers, the impression I get from praxeology is that they're all left-leaning. They're all left-leaning in economics in some variants. Now, I know how some people do not like the term of me saying left or right or how I use those terms, but I'm just going to roll with it. All three of them are left-leaning in their economic philosophies. They would prefer that everything was collectively owned as opposed to individually owned. But they have at least two different methods. Marx is take it by force. Proudhon and Tucker is subvert the market so that we can, like, by individualism and voluntarism, get to that area in society to where everything is collectively owned. I guess I'll go ahead and read Pluto's bit right here before I move on to the next tab. So from where that he picked up, I asked, is he for forcefully seizing the means of production, private property, etc.? Pluto says, I'll explain. Back then it was basically a system of monarchy. In monarchy, people were property under the absolutist state of I, aka a single figure. People like Lysander, Benjamin Tucker, Proudhon said we, meaning those are not part of that class. A misconception is that individualism and mutualism are contradictions. And yeah, I've never believed that individualism and mutualism are contradictions. I mean, I've always, or not always, but for a little while anyways, believed that they can, at least in theory, run in tangent with one another without, fighting each other or whatever. But is that how it ends up in the practicality of things? Most of the time, not. When somebody goes advocating for socialism, they go ultimately advocating for forceful seizure of it, be it by the mob or government. So most of the time, when it comes to all these far left economic philosophies, it does not turn out the way that people ideally and theoretically want it to be. But if you want to propose those theories, I mean, go ahead, knock your socks off. I mean, I won't harp on you that badly. The truth is, it can be, but if we is in reference to those not part of the royal caste, it can mean the individual. With Marxism, however, this isn't the case at all, because they mean we as in us. We as in us as in the collective mob and government, basically is what I get out of that. Okay, there's no secondary tweet to this, so I'm going to just go down to this one. What do I say? Oh, I go saying I don't disagree. I don't think I've ever disagreed that individualism can run in tangent with mutualism or even socialism and communism, at least in theory, as I put that in parentheses. Yeah, just like I said earlier. Pluto says individualism and communism definitely are mutually exclusive, which is why communists hate them. I mean, fair enough. I'm not an exact expert on the definitions. I mean, we can go ahead and quibble over which economic philosophies can run in tangent with libertarianism and individualism and which ones cannot. But moving on, I guess. This is also why mutualists are anti-property, quote unquote, and say property is theft, quote unquote, is because whether it was people or land, the crown owned it. And it also why they like free markets. This is also why Marx wrote The Poverty of Philosophy, because they're fundamentally different. Okay, you know what? I'm getting flashbacks to the Esso and Filthy versus West Savage and Colton debate. Because they kept on quibbling over whether or not there is such thing as an anti-property position. And of course, there's an also famous quote from SO: "Property is theft." But ultimately, if the people back then in those days were not anti-property or saying property is theft in any kind of Marxist-Leninist way, well then, fine. I mean, I guess I'm willing enough to give the benefit of doubt on that, but that doesn't mean that their philosophy is something that definitely should be withheld right now if they were like unironically using those terms. If they were only saying those things because all property, or pretty much all property, was owned by government, the crown, the monarch, or whatever, then fine. But yeah, still, I stand by what I say. Should not really be looked at as examples of what we want to uphold economically. Also, wait, this is also why Marx wrote The Poverty of Philosophy, because they're fundamentally different. I already read that, never mind. Pluto says an extension. Also, owning, I think he meant to put an N right there. Owning means of production is different. Again, mutualism is about working for yourself with others, generally, versus literally the state owning you. All right? I mean, okay. Which way do I want to go? I think we'll go back to this tweet later because there's a little bit more argument right there. And then I say in response, well, I'm not defending monarchy, and I don't define capitalism as government or any other person owning another person. Also, I personally don't like using the term the means of production. It's just that I use the means of production in tangent with property to encompass all that leftists want to seize. I mean, pretty much. Pretty much. Pluto says in response, it's because they don't fucking read their own books or articles. Means of production is about people themselves and their labor, except when it came to Marx and his boyfriend Engels. When you called yourself a socialist, this is a little meme shared by Alexander James. When you called yourself a socialist and free market advocate because you use outdated definitions of the word and confuse the fuck out of people. I mean, I guess that is, consider me confused the fuck out of. You know, I probably ought to like scour over the live chat. Well, actually, no, I'm going to finish this tab and then I'm going to scour over the live chat, see if there are like any requests to come on. And Pluto says pretty much in response to that. And I say also, referring Pluto back to my other tweet here, saying, as in he's not foreseeing what all I mentioned earlier. If so, then that is what I mean by he's not anti-capitalist in any meaningful or practical sense. More importantly, where I think it's not ironic for ANCAPs to like Spooner. Pluto says it's not ironic at all, though, because Lysander was anti-mercantilist. I mean, fair enough. I mean, I guess I can call myself an anti-mercantilist as well, but at least by what I hear the philosophy to be defined as. Mercantilism is like heavily involved in regulating trade, international trade and whatnot. ANCAPs are generally like Benjamin Tucker. All right. And Nate says, I just don't like it when they ignore what they stood for philosophically and try to make them out as ANCAPs, which is why I found it ironic. You know what? I'm going to stop right there. I don't think whenever I heard an ANCAP go talking about Lysander Spooner or Benjamin Tucker and whatnot, I don't think I ever recalled them ever saying, explicitly anyways, that they are actual anarcho-capitalists. I mean, Night Shift 10,000, if you're still in the live chat, you can clarify to me if you have ever called Tucker or Spooner anarcho-capitalists, or did you say that no, they're not technically anarcho-capitalists, but they're still somebody who say a lot of good stuff that I, as an anarcho-capitalist, agree with. I mean, if I am basically, if I'm misrepresenting some ANCAPs in that regard, well then say it in the live chat. Continuing on with that one singular tweet, though, which was why I found it ironic because some have actually done it. Okay, I guess fair enough. Maybe there are some ANCAPs that I have not met or seen that do that. People are even trying to say that Spooner was not a socialist, when technically he was. And Pluto says in response, because people think Marx has a monopoly on socialism and basically capitalism equals feudalism. I mean, I'm sorry that, yeah, I mean, it is a funny thing that I can pretty much acknowledge. Marx has claimed a monopoly on socialistic and communistic thought. Nightshift 10,000 says, I have not ever called them that in all caps. Well, for the record, everybody, I never said that Nate was trying to say that Nightshift is one of them, but just, I thought I'd just pose the question out there. But I believe they would have been friendly to the philosophy of anarcho-capitalism. Many anarcho-capitalists believe in much of what they talked about. That was finishing off Nightshift's chat comment right there. So, I say in response to Pluto's tweet right here, I didn't say it's ironic. In fact, I explicitly said I think it's not ironic. Was there something confusing with what I typed? Okay, 1 second. Oh yeah, I was saying that it's not ironic. Then he says it's not ironic at all. And I don't know. I might have been misreading the emotion, the feel of the room right there. But it just seemed like he was like, I don't know. And I might have misread his emotions or whatever, thinking that he was trying to be a smartass or whatever with me, but really, or correcting me, thinking that I was wrong. But no, that's ultimately not the case because Pluto says no, and then me being my awkward self, I ask, then why did you say it's not ironic though? Why did you say though? Because when you said though, it was like you thought we were saying two contrary things or you were trying to correct me on it. I mean, yeah. Again, my anxiety getting the best of me right there, folks. So my bad. Nate says in response to what I said there about the irony, I think Pluto was agreeing with you because you said you think it's not ironic, and he said it's not ironic at all. And I said, do you think it's ironic that ANCAPs like and respect Spooner? And Nate says, I mean, you can have respect for someone like Spooner, but again, I repeat, I just don't like it when people are trying to make him out as something that he isn't. That's what I was trying to address. If you misunderstood, I apologize. So that's finally the end of that tab, and at that point in the argument, like that took place after the whole "your question is misleading" spat that me and Nate had with each other. Like a few minutes afterwards, but afterwards nonetheless. So, or maybe even a couple hours afterwards, but nonetheless, just to point out, that's the one point in which that things were starting to calm down between me and Nate again. But then a few weeks later, or maybe just 1 week later. Well, actually, this is Pluto's tweet or Twitter thread. January 21st. That's not it. January 21st, January 28th. Okay. So, like 1 week later, he puts this part 2 of his anti-capitalism thread. And it just kind of irked me the fact that he was, I don't know, ignoring me, I guess. And I know it's kind of something petty to go on because obviously not everybody has the time to respond to everybody. But I don't know. I guess I just felt kind of snubbed at the time. And so that kind of gave me the implication that maybe things are not so hot. But because he wasn't one to continue the argument or discussion with me full out, that's why that I was getting more and more the idea that I wanted to do this live stream. Nightshift also says in expansion, anarcho-capitalism is most certainly not utopian. In fact, most ANCAPs, including myself, reject utopianism. Oh, he's responding to Godly Goat, who said anarcho-capitalism is utopian. Any person that wants to join? I'm not seeing it. There's a whole lot to read right here. Night Shift says in the chat, Nate's become the Darth Vader here. Darth Nader. That's funny, Night Shift. Although I think Nate would much sooner call me the Darth Vader of our groups or whatever. Well, actually, no, he wouldn't. But I have gotten that comment before by I have gotten that comment before in a response video to me. Alright, so nope, there's no request so far to join the live chat or join the live stream. You know what? Maybe I'll check very quickly. Let me check my notifications very quickly. Never mind. It's just somebody liking my shilling tweet of my live stream. Let me see if there's anything on Discord. Nah, brother. There is no requests on Discord to join. I'll just leave that as simply that. Is there anything? Oh, I just got here. Did I get maybe more than just a few subscribers? Here, oh crap. How's my audio coming through? Ah! Dadgummit. I just noticed that my audio was coming through my webcam instead of my Rode microphone. Fuck me. Why does OBS keep on reverting back to my webcam to intake my audio? This is fucking frustrating whenever it does that. I don't know why it does that. It just keeps on reverting back to it. God. Can you stop doing this to me, OBS? Can you stop doing this to me, computer? Damn it. Well, Invisible Hand says audio is fine. Well, yeah, I'm sure that y'all could have heard me loud and clear, but the thing is, the quality does not sound as crisp as through my Rode. But through my Logitech webcam, the audio just sounds shittier in comparison. But as I just double-checked my subscription right there, Maverick, Sidex, Edgerodo, thank you for subscribing to the channel. Welcome to the show. Anyway, so continuing on with the tweet threads here. This is from Pluto. The biggest reason as to why that I'm responding to Pluto's thread, even though that Pluto is not the main person that annoyed me, the biggest reason why I'm doing that is because Nate pointed out Pluto here. Pointed him out as, I don't know, I guess a source of authority somewhat when it comes to anti-capitalism. So, that's why I'm here. About to read into his thread. Like, I don't know what to expect because I haven't read this at all. The next two threads, both by Nate, I have read, but this one I have not at all. And damn, is it a long one, so let's get started. Pluto says the history of socialism versus communism versus fascism versus Nazism. The point of this thread will be to explain how fascism is a form of socialism. Which, in an argument with socialists, I do not know if I would make that point personally, but I don't completely disagree. But I would say that it's closer to corporatism than it is socialism. But, and he posts a gif, you gonna learn today. Like, I think that might be jokingness from him, but never mind. Let's just move on. Disclaimer, I'm a post-libertarian transhumanist agorist. I believe in voluntary exchange and free markets without state aggression and to use technology to maximize freedom. I am not a collectivist at all whatsoever. However, if people voluntarily collect, I don't care. Understandable. Next, socialism, literally depending on who claims are socialist when it comes to it. This is why when X Nation fails, it didn't count, but when Y succeeds, it's praised. Democratic socialists, ANCOMs, tankies, etc. All of y'all define it differently, but I'll begin. I guess this is more in response to far leftists like, what he just said there, Dem socks, ANCOMs, tankies, and whatnot, more than it is to capitalists. Socialism and communism in some forms in history were used basically as the same. But that doesn't mean they are the same. The fascists/Nazis can't be socialists because they killed other socialists is poor. Okay. He was quoting someone else's argument. So let me start over. The quote fascists/Nazis can't be socialists because they killed other socialists unquote argument is poor. Why? Socialists literally have always disagreed and killed each other. Proud Hun, mutualist, anarchist / anti-mercantilist, he was extremely at odds with the state socialists. Alright. There was state socialists such as Louis Blanc, again, who ones like Proud Hun did not like at all. What? Okay, that second sentence right there was a little bit of a typo. Misunderstood what Pluto was trying to say there. Again, who ones like Proud Hun did not like at all. What? Yeah, that's got to be a typo. Pluto says Joseph de Jacques, who was an ANCOM and hated Proud Hun. His thing was workers don't have a rights to the product of their labor, but was about people needs. Interesting. All right. So he was definitely a collectivist to the fullest extent. Pluto in continuance says Karl Marx, y'all damn Marxist king. Karl Marx, y'all damn Marxist king, broke up with Proud Hun and wrote a damn book, The Poverty of Philosophy, which literally was written to criticize Proud Hun's book, The Poverty of Philosophy. Literally from economics and strategy and implication, all different, no BS. This is a key difference as well. Marx felt violent revolution was needed and a step, which is one reason why many Marxists are also violent. Proud Hun was anti-violent revolution. Benjamin Tucker, who I also really like, wasn't into Marx at all and was more mutualist/libertarian. Later became an egoist/individualist and is very, very anti-state socialist. Alright. What was I going to say? Yeah, those I read in the Praxeology article, talking about how Marx is the authoritarian, and Benjamin Tucker and Lysander Spooner are both a couple, or Benjamin Tucker and Proud Hun, are a couple of voluntarist socialists of sorts. Again, Benjamin Tucker literally said Proud Hun was basically superior to Marx, and Marx would force collectivism and in ways create political masters. Again, socialists didn't like socialists. Benjamin also in this said Marx basically fathered state socialism. Here, again, if disagree and you're a socialist, you're making my point. I don't think, to argue for socialists a bit, I don't think, I think for the most part anyways, or I don't know, I do not know what percentage of socialists it is, but I'm pretty sure that there's lots of socialists who would admit, yeah, obviously socialists disagreed with other socialists. But anyway. Also, Johann Karl Fuhlrott, state socialist, anti-revolution. He was in many ways honestly communist, anti-rent, anti-property, anti-profit. But he was, funnily enough, anti-revolution. So, this Johann character, he did not want to violently seize the means of production, but he wanted to send the police or do some gradualist method of trying to take private property. Like, we'll take a little bit more through government regulation, then we'll take a little bit more through government regulation, then we'll take a little bit more through government regulation until the whole entire business is owned completely by the government. Instead of, let's go Bolshevik on their ass! Pluto also says Ferdinand Lassalle, another state socialist who Marx and also Engels apparently didn't like at all, he believed the state should be used as a tool, a night watch. No, let's look at more socialists hating and splitting from other socialists. Russia. Emancipation Liberation of Labor Party, Russian Social Democratic Labor Party, Socialist Revolutionary Party, not Marxist. All three did not get along at all, even within themselves. Russian Social Democratic Labor Party split during the Second Congress. Lenin, strict as hell, led revolution. I think he's meaning led as in past tense. Bolsheviks. Julius Martov disagreed with this and his split, the Mensheviks. They were ANCOMs. This was during a whole revolution in Russia, and the followers always and kept swinging. So miss me with that. Tankies are so different. BS. Okay. So miss me with that. Tankies are so different. BS. Yes, I kid you not. The ANCOMs and Tankies, their members always would go back and forth, which is why you also see groups like Antifa advocating welfare, free healthcare, food stamps, etc. This is the truth. Now there's Trotsky. He was a damn ANCOM turned more Leninist. Okay, so he started off as voluntarist in theory, anyways. But then he became a Marxist-Leninist. Did you also know the Russian Social Democratic Labor Party, the Congresses, were literally full of state socialists and ANCOMs together? True Grave says, because fuck you, Dark. I don't know, I guess you're being sarcastic or rather facetious in a further point that you're trying to make, Grave, or are you seriously mad or frustrated with me? I don't know. Now also, the Russian Civil War. Do you know what happened? Socialists fought other socialists. The Red Army, Lenin and Trotsky. White Army, small socialists, monarchs and markets. And Green Army, social democrats but peasants, like bruh. Now Lenin got old past Stalin versus Trotsky. Stalin basically yeeted second place from Trotsky. There was the left opposition who were in favor I think he meant to say of Trotsky, who Stalin kicked out. Excuse me. Now Stalin literally took from kulaks, aka peasants, many who were Green Army. He felt they were hoarding like grains and exiled them or put them in gulags. Stalin's 5-year plan also blended in his reign all property and such to the state. He also says, now what happens when you attack people's property and division of labor in relation to basic economics? What happens when production and supply contrast and labor costs literally are net negative? Overages and shortages. Thus you have famine. Or famine. I think he meant to say famine. He spelled F-A-N-O-N. Pluto, you're not really proofreading your spelling that much, just to be honest, bro. Oh, and Stalin also had ethnic cleansing too, by the way. Either deportation, trail of tears style, or gulag camps. Alright, now let's address Nazis. The Nazi Party started with Anton Drexler. Anton Drexler hated capitalism for ethnic reasons, Jewish people. He wasn't a Marxist, but a nationalistic state socialist for white German people. Think Lenin. Understood? Now Hitler joined and blew up the party. Name changed to National Socialist Germans Party. 25-point plan. It literally is socialism for white Germans only. No BS. They only said it to appeal to the X. Yes, they did, and so did the Russians with their forms of socialism. Now some people say Nazis were influenced by Mussolini and such. Both timelines happened at the same time. Now, let's begin with Mussolini. Mussolini literally was a member of the Italian Socialist Party and loved Marx. The difference was, well, nationalism. He was eventually killed by commies. I mean, for hell's sake, his own book goes on about the workers this and socialism this. Let's read this little quote here very quickly.
State interventionism in economic production arises when initiative is lacking or insufficient, or when political interests of the state are involved. This intervention may take the form of control, assistance, or direct management. Benito Mussolini. Mussolini was also raised in a socialist household and wrote socialist articles in his youth for a socialist paper. Giovanni Gentile, the father of fascism, also a neo-Hegelian, he basically wrote the doctrine of fascism, influenced by Marx and Engels. La Philosophia de Marx is basically a tribute to them. So, in conclusion, what is socialism? It depends who or what your baseline is, because socialists have hated other socialists, been racists, been dictators, anarchists, and even the right wing, aka fascist, syndicalist socialists. I mean, I heavily disagree with the idea of them being right wing, Pluto, but whatever. But yeah, that thread overall was not in. I did not see a whole lot in response to capitalism and people who call themselves capitalists. Well, okay, reading the thread here, it was not intended as that, just to clarify. So, in conclusion, I gotta ask, Nate, why was it that you shared this? Well, okay, I was about to ask why is it that he shared this Twitter thread to me, but now I'm starting to remember why. He was trying to use Pluto and what he was saying as a reference, as a, as evidence to how that Tucker and Spooner and whatnot, that they are not for forcefully seizing the means of production. So that's why. Not really so much anti-capitalist, but let's move on. Actually, take a drink break first. Excuse me. Invisible Hand said the USSR killed other socialists too, especially via the gulags. Yeah, and I guess that's what Pluto there was clarifying as well. The kulaks were like the farmers of Ukraine, from my understanding, and he was saying that they collectively owned their farming or whatever. I don't know. I'd have to ask for further clarification, because I thought for a while that the kulaks privately owned their farms before the Holodomor, and then the Holodomor happened, and Stalin started taking all the means of production of those farms under state control, and then the famine happened of the Holodomor. Anyway, so getting back to Nate, thread, the history of capitalism, education. The point of this thread will be to explain how capitalism, quote unquote, is not only an anti-concept, but a useless, vague political buzzword. You gonna learn today. So, when I read this Twitter thread, I read both of these Twitter threads, I think. Well, definitely part 2. Maybe I read part 1 as well. Actually, no. I think I have read these both before. And I did not learn anything, or at least not everything that Nate wanted me to learn, as to how that capitalism is such a bad term to basically break down what he was wanting to teach here. I mean, he taught a lot of stuff about the beliefs of different philosophers throughout history, but he did not really explain it in any way for me to understand, let alone agree with, as to how that I should definitely abandon the term capitalism, or even abandon capitalism entirely. Actually, you know what? Before I continue on, I'm gonna read Discord again. Okay. Still nobody responded from Discord saying they want to join, and still nobody from the live chat, as I've thus seen, says they want to join in order to defend Nate or whatever. So anyway, getting to the part 1 anti-capitalism thread from Nate. Disclaimer, I'm a voluntarist, individualist, anarchist, paleo-libertarian. I believe in freed markets without state aggression. I'm not a collectivist at all, period, though if individuals want to voluntarily collect like Mikhail Bakunin wanted to, I don't care. And let me say that I have this sort of same belief as well. That ultimately, if people want to voluntarily collectivize their means of production and their business, that's fine. I mean, no disagreement there. Here we go. Capitalism is an anti-concept used by both proponents and opponents alike. So, I want to stop right there. I have heard plenty of, I've heard this plenty, especially ever since that I started, whenever I had like streamed with Esoteric the Free, or whatever. Like, he was the first one for me to hear this term, unironically, that capitalism is an anti-concept. And now I'm hearing it from Nate, and I'm sure other people will tell me as well that capitalism is an anti-concept. Like, and the long and short of it, I do not know what the fuck y'all are supposed to, y'all mean by that. Really. And as far as I'm concerned, there is a concept to capitalism. At least nowadays, there is a concept to capitalism, and that being this, the definition right here. Well, actually, I'm going to go to the shorter definition. An economic system in which investment in and ownership of the means of production, distribution, and exchange of wealth is made and maintained chiefly by private individuals or corporations, especially as contrasted to cooperatively or state-owned means of wealth. So there's the concept of capitalism. So, I mean, as Nate is going to get in here later, he's going to say that Karl Marx, I think, invented the term of capitalism as a catch-all for all the economic philosophies that his philosophy, Marxism, runs against, as to why that he created his philosophy. You know, all this stuff that I disagree with, that I am doing my activism against, is capitalist. I mean, sure, yeah, he might have used it as a term just for that purpose, but that doesn't mean that there can't be a new definition injected into it. And there has been a new definition injected to it. Private ownership of property and the means of production. So, it doesn't make any sense to me why people would say capitalism is an anti-concept. They don't even know what its purpose is at all whatsoever. Well, after reading this, I guess I know what originally its purpose was. But even before reading these threads right here, in the debate between Owen Cunt Donald and a very dead horse, they gone clarifying that the term capitalism was originally invented by Karl Marx. So, I don't know, maybe I at one point thought somewhere subconsciously in my head that capitalism was a term originally invented in a sort of a malicious sort of intent rather than a, capitalism friendly sort of intent. But, yeah, I mean, yeah. Anyway. The term capital traces to ancient times, and capitalists came with the financial revolution of the 17th and 18th centuries. Okay. Are you saying that the term was invented way back in the 17th and 18th centuries? Or are you trying to say that the concept of capital and capitalism, or a capitalist, was made back then? Like, I don't know what you mean by that. I mean, I've always understood that Marx was the inventor of the term capitalism. Someone 1000 says, LOL, just to let you know, DarkCon, if you think of the Star Wars as Ancon SP versus the government, then being called Darth Vader would be an honor, considering the dark side is against the form of government. Well, I could get into talking about Star Wars, but I think I'm going to just leave that tangent for some other foolish hangout time. anyway, Nate in continuance says, next, capitalism is a product of political conflicts and economic transformations of the 19th and 20th centuries. State socialist Louis Blanc coined it in 1850 to sneer at advocates of freed markets. It was also done with the intention of letting communists control the debate. After half a century, Blanc never uttered the word again. Okay, actually, I'm going to respond to this tweet before I go on any further. Like, throughout this thread entirely, and even in this tweet right here, he's giving extra context around the term of capitalism, but it's not really so much convincing as to why that I should like buy into some alternative definition of capitalism, alternative to these anyways. It did not really convince me of that so much, nor did it really convince me that we should abandon the term of capitalism. I mean, people can reclaim terms. I mean, for example, black people are continuously trying to reclaim the word nigger, to be trying to like soften up the term to say nigga or something like that, and turn it into a term of endearment of sorts. But all the same, I mean, what's the matter with people trying to claim back words that were originally meant as were originally invented with a negative context? So moving on. Next, capitalism is a product of political conflicts. So wait, did I already read that? Yeah, I already read that. After half a century, Blanc never uttered the word again. Karl Marx only mentioned it a few times later in life. Before that, in 1871, an American interviewer from the New York Herald had to explain to him what he meant by it. Capitalism, that is, as you, Marx, would say, monopoly. Now that's bullshit, honestly, because capitalism demonetized his invisible hand. Well, I was saying it in context, just a little FYI to people. I don't care about monetization. I'm under 1,000 subs anyway, so I'm not qualified for it anyways. My money source comes from patrons, which I guess I should like go mentioning more often on live streams, that the donators, the patrons of this channel are Makilla Stray Cat, Cat Chat, and Conundrum. Those are the patrons. And if anybody else wants to join the Dark Conservatarian Patreon team, link is down in the description box below. The Patreon link is there. Go ahead and throw a few shekels. Yeah, exactly, JC Armitage. Still in 1880, it was not mentioned in the first published text of the French Socialist Congress. But among state socialists, authoritarian communists, and Marxists, it became part of the vocabulary of revolt by the end of the century. The same is still happening to this day. I mean, I think I agree, but they're wrong. There was more that I wanted to say in regards of monopoly right here. I would say that that's a bit of a bullshit definition. The person who was talking to Marx, as Nate is referring to right here, because I guess under capitalism, you could theoretically have a monopoly that is still privately owned by a very few individuals, or more specifically, one individual, a monopoly over a sector of the economy owned by one private individual. But it's real impractical, for one thing, and secondly, that's most of the time not really the case on how that a free market economy turns out. So it doesn't seem to be a working definition really for me. It seems that the person right here was using a free market exclusive definition of capitalism, which is malarkey. Continuing down here, also important to note, European economists remained skeptical of the term's validity for a while. American economists rejected it well in the 1920s. As late as 1925, there was no entry for capitalism in the Palgrave Dictionary of Political Economy. I mean, terms take a little while to be adapted. I mean, I don't know what you're on about this, Nate. He also says, and last but not least in this important area, the German book, the Handbuch der Staatswissenschaften, if that's how you pronounce it, expressed doubt that it belonged in an academic work. So what happened from there? Why is it that capitalism has become tainted? Stick around, there's more. Well, actually, I think that the term capitalism has been cleaned up and reclaimed, at least for the most part anyways, these days by capitalists. It's, yeah, still somewhat tainted by communists who try to use some originalist definition that Marx had invented it for. But all the same, it's not as tainted nowadays as I would say that it was back then, Nate. Just my opinion. Stick around, there's more. As I have been trying to explain, the term is utterly meaningless to psychologically condition people to project their own understanding of capitalism onto the definition of capitalism. Granted, that definitions change, but no. I mean, we're not going to let people get away with their own willy-nilly definition of capitalism, because Owen Cunt Donald, as a prime example, and I keep on mentioning his name a lot, Owen MacDonald, actually, is his name for any of y'all wondering. But he has said plenty of times on his Twitter that I have read plenty of times on his Twitter that he defines, or he says, or at least implies, that capitalism runs inclusively in tangent with government. Like government is required for capitalism to run, which I completely disagree with that. And he's just a prime example of somebody who is botching it. Yeah. And just taking an alternative definition to it, a rather crackpot definition, if you will, as opposed to the actual definition, that being private ownership of means of production and so forth. And government is not inherently required for it. He says it is, but the definition, the textbook definition, modern day textbook definition of it anyways, is not that though. So I understand what you're trying to say here, Nate, but that doesn't make them any less wrong, those people. It doesn't mean that we, capitalists, are any less right, really. So every individual has their own idea that is mutually exclusive to others' ideas. As a result, they end up assuming that everybody is operating under the same definition. For example, a so-called conservative would think that they support free markets, while a communist thinks they're fighting the status quo. Obviously not true on both ends. Well, that's when that we start to have a conversation with the conservative and tell them, or ask them anyways, are you against the existence of a minimum wage? Because let's keep in mind, not all conservatives are against the minimum wage laws. I am against minimum wage laws. I don't even really consider myself much of a conservative nowadays. I'm more of a minarchist libertarian, or a conservatarian primarily, I guess. But yeah, I mean that's the point. That's the point of when that we would tell them, no, you don't really support free markets because you want XYZ regulation in business. I mean, heck, I'd say that Aircraft Sparky would probably be a prime example of a conservative that doesn't really support free markets anyways. I mean, if he claims to be so, well, then I disagree with him and say he's wrong. But yeah, that's the time of when that a conversation would come up between me and him about economic principle and so forth. Obviously not true on both ends. No, it's not so obvious, Nate. Furthermore, they end up, I think he meant to say end up, not end of, OF. I think he meant to spell UP. They end up interpreting each other's definitions and usage of capitalism as meaning what they believe it means. It gets ugly from there, and I've seen it happen all the time. Well, to be quite bluntly honest, Nate, our exchanges on the term of capitalism and so forth is also ugly at the same time. So I don't see the ugliness of it being really important to the argument of it. Especially when I see anarcho, quote-unquote, capitalists argue with the tankies. What happens? Well, the conservative interprets the communist as opposition to free markets. Indeed, they generally are, or even 100% are, because they want to seize the means of production, be it through mob rule or state seizure of the means of production. There's no considerable difference, to me personally, between the two. Just putting that out there. Now, I'm gonna very quickly check these tweets. Okay, never mind. It's just me being tagged in somebody else's shilling. Where was I? And then the communist interprets the conservative as private ownership of the means of production enforced by the state. Yeah, they're wrong. I would point to the actual definition here, as I have plenty of times before. And they do so by reckless buzzing of the term. I don't need to go into further detail of the end result of that because it's awful, but it does show why debating over what capitalism is and or what the correct definition is a complete waste of time. Isn't that basically what you're doing, Nate, is arguing over what the definition of capitalism is? I mean, I know that for certainly you are arguing over what the intent of the invention of the term capitalism is, but ultimately I would say that hand in hand, you are also arguing over the definition of capitalism yourself. Or, I don't know. Maybe he's not, but anyway. It turns into an argument over semantics, not having a civil discourse. While well-intentioned, it was a mistake for Rothbard to create anarcho-capitalism since he inadvertently put libertarians in the position that I described above. Make no mistake that I don't have negativity with him, Triple H, or Walter Block, who I know personally. As shown by Gary Chartier, these are the three most used definitions of capitalism, quote-unquote. If capitalism 1 is correct, then anarcho-capitalism is a redundant title. More here. So, looking at this... So just reading this, these screen caps that he provided. Capitalism definition 1, an economic system that features property rights and voluntary exchanges of goods and services. Yep. I mean, that's pretty much in tangent with the definition that I provided earlier. Capitalism 2, definition number 2, an economic system that features a symbiotic relationship between big business and government. Yeah, I would completely disagree with that, as it does not run with in tangent with the earlier definitions that I provided, and that definition seems to be more like corporatism or plutocracy, whatever you want to call it. Capitalism definition number 3, rule of workplaces, society, and if there is one, the state by capitalists, that is by a relatively small number of people who control investable wealth and the means of production. I guess that would be like the biggest, the biggest pinnacle definition of a plutocracy right there. Or an oligarchy, rather. But, yeah, I would say I would disagree with that definition, too, for reasons as stated earlier. Capitalism 1, it just is a freed market. So if anti-capitalism meant opposition to capitalism, capitalism definition... Okay. Let me start over. Capitalism number 1 just is a freed market. So if anti-capitalism meant opposition to capitalism number 1, definition number 1, free market, anti-capitalism, quote unquote, would be oxymoronic. I cannot remember if I explicitly read this screen cap here, but I don't see anything that I disagree with in that sentence. But proponents of free market anti-capitalism aren't opposed to capitalism number 1. Instead, they object either to capitalism number 2 or to both capitalism number 2 and capitalism number 3. Okay, so ultimately, to Steelman, Nate, and Pluto, they are ultimately not against what they are colloquially defining as capitalism definition number 1, that being free markets. But at the same time, that's the whole thing as to why that I have a problem with the whole anti-capitalist label. You can call yourself no longer a capitalist if you want to, but if you call yourself anti-capitalist, the implication that I get, and newcomers to political terms, they think communist, they think socialist. Just putting that out there. Many people seem to operate with definitions that combine elements from these distinct senses of capitalism. Both enthusiasts for and critics of capitalism seem too often to mean by it something like an economic system that features personal property rights and and voluntary exchanges of goods and services, and therefore predictably also ruled by capitalists. I think there is good reason to challenge the assumption that dominance by a small number of wealthy people is in any sense a likely feature of a freed market. Such dominance, I suggest, is probable only when force and fraud impede economic freedom. Okay. I'm gonna take a very quick break here, folks, to check the Discord and whatnot, see if there's anything new as far as challenges. Nope, still nobody has challenged me to bring him onto my show. Alright. Reading the chat here a little bit, I guess. Invisible Hand says, Murray Rothbard contemplated referring to anarcho-capitalism as non-archism for a while. Alright. To distinguish it from the various schools of anarchism which oppose capitalism. Yeah. I don't know. There is a little bit of a back and forth argument to be had on that front when it comes to what the original definition of anarchism and libertarianism is, but nonetheless. Scores Volunteer says capitalism is the voluntary exchange of services and goods without force, coercion, or threat. I agree, Scorch. Continuing on with the thread here, Nate says, as far as I am concerned, anarcho-capitalism is coming to an end, much like the patriarchists and the LP will fall as well. The tide seems to have begun to turn back to its original roots of the early libertarians, aka classical liberals, and the individualist anarchists. I mean, I think there might be I guess there's a little bit of truth to that, because the big wig of anarcho-capitalism himself, Mr. Dapperton, has kind of abandoned the label himself. He no longer calls himself that. I think Shane Killian still calls himself an anarcho-capitalist, but so maybe he's the glimmer of hope for the term and philosophy of anarcho-capitalism. Who knows? Oh yes, I should also mention this as well. Adam Smith was not the father of quote-unquote capitalism. I mean, agree to disagree, I guess. I mean, I've heard and listened to documentaries otherwise. He never coined the term, nor did he ever refer to himself as such. I personally have never claimed such, and I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that he actually coined the term himself. Just people are saying that his philosophy, his economic philosophy, was basically what people interpret now as modern day capitalism, to put it in so many words. Like I know for a while, I've known for a while that capitalism wasn't invented in the 18th century. As far as I'm concerned, it did not. The term capitalism wasn't invented until the 19th century when Karl Marx was alive, and freaking Adam Smith here being prominent in the 18th century would have been he would have been far before the term's time. Saying this is just as bad as saying that Joseph de Jacques and Ancom coined the term libertarian, quote unquote. It is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from their regard to their own interests, says Adam Smith. I mean, yeah, nothing really in contrary to capitalism there, just for the record. To finish this off, most don't know socialism inherited its meaninglessness from capitalism. It used to mean what Benjamin Tucker, a free market anti-capitalist, advocated for in his 1888 essay. Right here, more on socialism, from Base Pluto. Alright. So that's the end of that thread. How much longer is this one? It's a little bit longer, but I don't think we have much longer here to go, folks, as far as arguments against capitalism go. Excuse me. Second Good old swig of my monster there. So, the History of Capitalism Part 2 by Nate the Voluntarist. The point of this second thread is to show why free market anti-capitalism has been trending dramatically for the past 10 plus years and why capitalism is incompatible with freedom. I think I do remember like reading the first thread here because when I saw the Adam Smith part there, my memory started clicking that I had read it. But part 2 here, I definitely know I have read the whole dang thing. I read this whole thing and I was not convinced as to how that capitalism is incompatible with freedom. No offense, Nate, but I was not convinced when I first read this, and I'm sure I'm not going to be convinced with a second look at this thread either. Again, to anybody who might be watching, if Nate or anyone else friendly to the ideas that Nate puts forth about capitalism and whatnot is like secretly listening in, tell me in the live chat if you want me to invite you onto this stream so that you can defend yourself or defend Nate and Pluto and what they say and so forth. Anyway, here's part 1. If you haven't read it, stop here and go read the whole thing. If you have, continue reading. Alright. Next. I've already shown how capitalism is a buzzword and why these state socialists and authoritarian communists have buzzed it around to destroy any form of discourse, but I will be taking things to another level. Yeah, if he was against capitalism beforehand, he's even more so going to call himself, he's even more so going to run against capitalism in this one. Whenever ANCAPs debate these people, including the tankies, they always resort to, that's not real capitalism, or that's not capitalism, that's corporatism, whenever confronted on economic/corporate privilege or the alleged death toll of capitalism. I mean, how is it real capitalism? I just gotta ask, Nate, like, if we were to break down example by example of what is real capitalism or not, I would probably be saying that a whole lot of them are not real capitalism either. Like, whenever Owen goes saying that capitalism requires government for it to run or for it to even exist, I would say no, that's not the definition of capitalism. Anyway, as already addressed, it makes it hard to have any form of discussion. If you're a libertarian who associates with capitalism and disagree, you're proving my point. Let's continue. I don't see as to how that I am proving his point, being a libertarian who associates with capitalism. Like, this is kind of some passive... Like, this is the thread that happened after the one argument that me and him had on this thread, or this this tweet right here. So, when I got reading this originally, it just felt like that he was sort of passively throwing shade at me without actually mentioning my name. But, or addressing me in general and how he thinks of my thought process. As already addressed, it makes it hard to have any form of discourse. If you're a libertarian who associates with capitalism and disagree, you're proving my point. Me disagreeing with what you have to say does not mean that it's impossible for us to have some form of discourse, Nate. I don't see how me disagreeing with you proves your point about how it's hard to have a form of discourse. Like, what the fuck, dude? Let's continue. Many anarchists from the 19th century have always been critical of capitalism and have worked to make sure libertarians do not associate. It evolved into libertarian circles, but that doesn't mean they are the same. People will keep ignoring this because they don't want to learn. Yeah, keep it up. Keep it up with the arrogance, Nate. God. I mean, if you're going to make a thread talking about political, I don't know. God. Capitalism is often associated with Capitalism is often associated with corporations taking control. Some ANCAPs admit they support corporations in free markets. Corporations are government-protected entities, so they are incompatible with freedom, point blank. I don't care what your excuses are. I do not know if you would technically classify this as an excuse, Nate. It's more of a question, but what's your definition of a corporation? Just for the record. And where do you get that definition from? That's the only thing I have to say. I'm not saying that I disagree with you, Nate. I'm just asking. I keep seeing ANCAP's revision other individualist anarchists who are extremely at odds with capitalism. Some even refer to themselves as socialists. Even these quote-unquote state socialists are unaware of what socialism is. Y'all define them differently, but I'll begin. Here, I'm gonna check notifications again here. No, it's just another person liking the shill tweet from earlier. Proud Hun, mutualist, anarchist / anti-mercantilist. He was an enemy of both state socialism and state capitalism. He even was a sworn enemy of Marx and vehemently opposed both violent revolution and authoritarian communism. Nate the Voluntarist. Benjamin Tucker, a student of Proud Hun and who I really like, wrote 2 essays on socialism within individualist anarchism. Tucker wanted to affirm the identity of individualist anarchism of his sort with socialism. By socialism, Tucker means to address the social problems, including during that time, which could be problematic relations between capital and labor or other social questions. He does not mean collective ownership of the means of production, yet y'all mix this stuff up. So we're getting closer and warmer to the area of Nate's newfound political philosophy, I guess, as to what is more an issue than the idea that he does not call himself a capitalist or even calls himself an anti-capitalist. We're getting closer to that. You know what? Before I continue on any further, I'm going to go ahead and see. I want to just I guess bring up my own Twitter thread that I had to say in response to Nate. Where is it? Quote tweets. All right, there's my quote tweet. I will copy that and. All right. Back and back. And back again. And get to our bookmark. Here we are. So I'll just save that for later to sort of top this off. Tucker has written 2 essays that extensively and explicitly explain it, so go read them. Well, I'll admit that I haven't read the panarchy.org article, Nate, but I have read the praxeology.net article. Nate the Volunteer says, Proud Hun believed the same, along with other individualist anarchists like Joshua K. Ingalls and Lysander Spooner. Ingalls and Spooner, including Tucker, were often referred to as free market socialists, and no, it's not an oxymoron. If you think it is, you have lots to learn. Well, I think I've made it clear before to Nate, and I don't think he's really meaning me specifically when he says you, but all the same, just for the record, I've said that free markets can run in tangent or not in conflict, let me put it that way, with socialism, at least in theory. Just most of the time it does not come out that way in practice. They believe that markets can achieve the things that socialists say they want. Tucker's essays are explicitly pro-market and not endorsing the status quo. Again, go read the essays if you haven't already. Maybe I'll read the Panarchy article some other time, but for right now, we're just moving on. As already noted, Louis Blanc coined the term capitalism in 1850. Okay. No, I swear that I did read this entire thread, but I forgot about this part that I read. That it was more specifically Louis Blanc, I guess. maybe that coined the term capitalism. I would have to go reading into it myself, because for right now I'm just taking Nate's word for it. But even though I did not get the person right, it's still like around the same time that I thought that capitalism was invented, in the 19th century. But starting over, as already noted, Louis Blanc coined the term capitalism in 1850 to give more ammunition to the authoritarian communists. They have taken control of the conversation ever since. Again, Proudhon and Tucker did not like him at all. They haven't taken complete control of the conversation, just for the record. I mean, we have been able to manage ourselves to get a definition that actually runs in tangent with, free marketeers, us free marketeers. But I digress. Mikhail Bakunin, if that's even how you spell it anyways, collectivist anarchist, another anarchist who was a student of Proudhon, and who Marx hated, wanted to voluntarily collect within free associations and without violent revolution. Like Hoppe, Proudhon, and Stirner, he's very misunderstood. That's to all the anti-Hoppians out there, from Nate, by the way. Nate the voluntarist. Bakunin followed the same conclusions on capitalism as Tucker, Engels, Spooner, and Proudhon. In his timeless 1871 essay, he writes how capitalism is by its very nature exploitative. Now, that's the first buzzword, or not buzzword necessarily, but red flag when I gone reading this, as far as what Nate actually believes in the practical sense. Like, I already know what his beliefs are on the philosophical side of things, but on the practical and ethical side of things. Because exploitative, the word exploit, that term is used a whole lot by communists and socialists and whatnot as a way to deride capitalism and whatnot. They use exploit as a pejorative. Anyways. Okay, Zachary Colley in the live chat. I'm just going to say for the record, if you're interested in what exactly Pluto said, I suggest that you go watching the entirety of this live stream after it's fully processed and, I've went off air, whatnot. Just for you to get the full context of what Pluto's beliefs are. But I will say for the record, actually, that I don't have as many questions and red flags raised in my head, honestly, about Pluto and whether or not he advocates for some kind of seizure of the means of production. But Nate, I don't fully believe he believes in forceful seizure. But there are some things that almost make me go questioning or asking if he is heading down that road faster than Pluto, if that makes any sense. And this is one of them right here. The fact that he uses exploitative or exploit as a negative, with a negative connotation, as a pejorative or whatever. I mean, to all socialists out there, and I mean actual socialists, sees the means of production, Owen Cunt Donald-esque type socialists. The way that you guys use exploit when you say that, a business owner is exploiting a worker's labor or whatever, you're really using the word exploit in almost a neutral fashion. You're making the word exploit sound like not a bad term at all. You're just honestly watering down the term of exploit. And by extension, Nate, I'll say the same thing for you. You're just taking the sting out of the word of exploit when you are saying, or at least implying here anyways, that voluntary employment, that being something, one of the key facets within capitalism is voluntary employment, by saying that is exploitative, or capitalism is exploitative. If a business owner hiring a worker is exploitative, well then I guess exploitation did nothing wrong, dude. Again, like Tucker and the others, he addresses corporate/economic privilege. That's fair enough. I mean, I do not want an uneven playing field in the economic game. I've said it plenty of times that I'm against corporatism. He goes on to say that by concentrating political power and economic capital in the hands of capitalists, capitalism guarantees that the workers of the world will always live in misery. You can listen to the entire essay here. Okay. He goes on to say that by concentrating political power and economic capital in the hands of capitalists. Is that really the explicit intent of us capitalists, Nate? Because I would heavily disagree with that notion. I mean, that's the intent of, yes, all the cronyists, the plutocrats and whatnot, and government all working side by side with each other to give one company a higher economic advantage over another company. Yeah, that's their intent. But that's not the intent of us who actually believe in true blue capitalism. So I do not know what you're on about there when you say by concentrating political power and economic capital in the hands of capitalists. Like, that's not the intent. That might be somewhat of the end result or something like that, but really that's not what we are actively trying to do. If there is absolutely anyway, no, I'm not gonna say that. I'm rambling already as it is. Lawrence Lebeatty, individualist, anarchist / mutualist. He was a fervent critic of capitalism and referred to it as a system of government protecting and coddling. Well, I'd say he's wrong. Its defect being the want of competition. And if the way that he was defining it there was only by what he was observing, quote unquote, capitalism to be working within all the industrial revolution societies, well, I would argue to him that that's not the definition of capitalism, let alone is it the modern day definition of capitalism. And would say, at best, he's wrong in a modern context. At worst, he is wrong even in that timely context too, during the Industrial Revolution. Wait, let me reread that actually, because I was responding to mostly the first half of that sentence. He was a fervent critic of capitalism and referred to it as a system of government protection and coddling. And here's the second half. Its defect being the want of competition. There is nothing wrong with wanting competition, or at least allowing competition to happen. Like, I would even argue that even within anarchism in general, let's not even say explicit capitalism, if there was absolutely no government, there would still be people competing against each other in an economic sort of fashion. My product is better than your product. No, my product is better than your product. Let's prove it. Let's see who ends up selling, or at least bartering, whatever, the most product to other people. Competition within anarchy. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with competition in general. So I don't know why you're referring to this, Nate, or what exact context you're meaning to refer this specific sentence to. His father, Joseph, said that it has had its day and that it must go. Not really, no. Lysander Spooner, individualist, anarchist, free market, socialist, he was opposed to wage labor, wanting that social relationship destroyed by turning capital over to those who work in it as associated producers and not as wage slaves. This is not being anti-free markets. No, but it puts forth the precedent for other people who are anti-free markets to feel legitimized and emboldened in their own seizure of people's private property and other privately owned shit, Nate. Like, seriously. Nate unironically uses the term wage slave right here. And the opposition of wage labor, I disagree with Lysander Spooner. What's wrong with it? What's wrong with anybody paying someone else a given wage so that they can continue working with them? And those laborers competing with other laborers for the best paying and best well-conditioned job. What's wrong with that? I mean, are we going to start going on to the whole stealing my labor kind of argument? In that case, you just end up, I mean, if Big fat if, by the way, Nate. I'm not saying that this is what you think, but if that is the way that you go thinking, then you really will start sounding more like a freaking Marxist, like an actual Marxist. What was I gonna say? But wage slavery. The fact that you unironically use the term wage slavery, like, what's your belief now, Nate, when it comes to wages, to wage labor in general, when it comes to hiring people? Do you think that that's a thing that should not exist? And if so, what means are you going to take to try and get society to where that wage labor does not exist? How? What if you end up finding somebody who does hire somebody and paying them a wage for their labor? I mean, are we going to start advocating for violent seizure right then? Like, again, I've been saying throughout this entire fucking stream, people, that Nate, I do not think is for violent seizure. But that's my question to him. That's my question for clarification to Nate. I even, said it over Twitter, gone asking him the question. He hasn't answered the question yet. Are you for violently seizing private property if you find there to be, within anarchy, to be an example of a business owner paying a wage to their hired laborer in a quote-unquote exploitative way, supposedly? Because if you are going to be unironically calling that wage slavery like Lysander Spooner here is, well, that just sets up a very bad precedent for it to be philosophically, by the philosophy right here being proposed, for that to be stopped by force. It really does. It really does put forth a bad precedent. I mean, think of it this way, Nate. Slavery goes against the NAP, right? I would, of course, say that wage labor is not wage slavery at all, because, they voluntarily took up that job, They're voluntarily being hired by that business owner. They're not being forced, held down by the chain, and pointed at by the gun to keep on working for that business owner. So therefore, it's not wage slavery, I just say. Full stop. But if we are really going to unironically keep on saying that wage labor is wage slavery, then does that mean that we should violently retaliate? Because is slavery a violation of the non-aggression principle? Is slavery a violation of libertarianism, of human rights? If so, well then I know, you know, and every other legitimate libertarian knows that self-defense is a legitimate thing within libertarianism. That it is not illegitimate for somebody to defend their own human rights in the case of being able to own themselves and not be owned by somebody else under slavery. It is their own right to defend against that, even with violence. So, for all of these wage slaves that happen to exist, should we free those wage slaves by shooting all the business owners? By killing all of them and seizing all their property? That's my question. Again, FYI, before I get accused of strawmanning right now, I am not saying that is actually Nate's belief. All I'm doing is asking the question for clarification. And if Nate really does not believe in what I just said right there, I would still say that it's freaking stupid, that it puts forth a bad precedent for Marxists to feel legitimate in seizing private property and businesses and whatnot. And really, because of the whole voluntary aspect of employment, you, Nate, you really should know better, honestly. You should know better than to say that it's slavery, to say that wage labor is slavery. I mean, really. You should know, you of all people, In fact, all of us libertarians who have been like closely associated with the ANCAP community should all know better. Like, I know that people are like changing their beliefs a whole lot, but I would at least hope and expect, anyways, that people who are formerly part of the ANCAP community would still understand that employment is not wage slavery, and so therefore is not illegitimate. Alright, so I just clicked that tweet just to sort of bookmark of where my place is at, people. I'm going to address the live chat right here because, hello, Base Pluto in the chat. I might read some of the other live chat comments right here. Zach goes asking, what spurred this on, Nate? You were one of the biggest voices against the commies among us. What's going on? Why are you employing their rhetoric? Yeah, I mean, if he's using the term wage slavery unironically, like Lysander Spooner was, then he is ultimately using modern day far leftists' arguments in a sense that does not make any sense to me at all. Zach also says, I want to give him benefit of the doubt. Yeah, me too, Zach, me too. But I'm just posing these questions right now on this live stream, hoping that my questions get answered by Nate, hoping that he'll see this live stream in all eventuality. But I'm in total shock right now. This isn't like him. What brought on this change? I don't know, Nate. Or Zach, excuse me. And Zach Ricali, don't get mad at Pluto. I don't think Pluto is responsible for Nate unironically using the term wage slavery. JC Armitage says, again, I will say that criticism of the wage labor system does not equal wanting to seize the means of production. I never said that, JC. I'm just saying that it puts forth a bad precedent for such a thing to start happening, for Marxists to feel legitimate and emboldened. Alright, so Base Pluto, his chat comments being down at the bottom of the live chat right now. The point of my thread wasn't anti-capitalism. It was literally because annoying ass hypocritical Marxists kept telling me X isn't socialist because Y killed this. This is a legit argument, they say. Okay. My bad, Pluto. I didn't know as to whether or not you were ever anti-capitalist. I thought you did at one point call yourself anti-capitalist. I could be wrong, but if you're not, well then, cool beans. You're not the prime subject of this live stream then, honestly. Also, Pluto, if you're still in the live chat there, do you want an invite into this live stream to possibly talk about this? To possibly defend Nate even, and so on and so forth. I was only just, alright. And Nate has just popped up in the live chat, but, like, I was only reading your thread, Pluto. I was only reading your thread because Nate had cited it in a part of his anti-capitalism rhetoric. I'm also not an ANCAP at all. I never have been one. I come from the libertarian, transhumanist, agorist communities. Well, I don't think I've ever heard you technically call yourself an ANCAP, and I don't think I've ever claimed you to really be an ANCAP, Pluto. But at the same time, you were like closely associated with them and in heavy agreement with ANCAPs when it comes to freed markets and so forth. So, yeah. Nate, the voluntarist in the live chat, says, I was merely addressing what Spooner said. That does not mean I came to the position of wage slavery. Okay. Fair enough, I guess. Maybe my vitriol in that one little rant right there was a bit unjustified in regards of hearing you say wage slavery. You don't... Oh, God. He was opposed to wage labor, wanting that social relationship destroyed by turning capital over to those who work in it as associated producers and not as wage slaves. I don't know, the way that you wrote this out, honestly, Nate, it almost came off like you personally were saying it unironically yourself, like you believe that to be a legitimate concept, that they are wage slaves. But anyway, I'm going to right now going to pull up Discord on my computer so I can get this set up. Oops. .com. Pull up a StreamYard here. Oh, excuse me. My bad. Steward. Sorry, I got a little bit sidetracked with Magaga More Scars. Excuse me. Base Pluto. Oh wait, Base Pluto is in the freaking thing here. Strike Force enter broadcast studio. Allow. Of course, I won't be able to show my avatar. Enter broadcast studio. Add to stream. Double check my mic on my freaking. Oh god, my mic is being taken in through my fucking webcam on StreamYard as well. Why the fuck does my computer keep on doing this to me? It's so fucking frustrating. Anyway. Copying the link and pulling up Pluto's profile, and let's see if this message works. Alright, it worked. And there's one to Nate in case he's interested. Otherwise, the conversation can be just purely between me and Pluto. Either way, I don't care. Also, Night Shift is dead wrong about my influence. It was Gary Chartier and Pluto that changed my mind, not EP. Says Nate in the live chat. Okay, well, I wasn't paying attention to that one live chat comment. I guess you might have seen it and I haven't. I'm closely associated with ANCAPs due to anti-statism, and I advocate free markets for crypto transhumanist reasons, which ANCAPs even sneak diss me for. The whole crypto and transhumanist thing. Well, sorry about that, Pluto, but I was just saying closely associated with. Anyway, no, I don't need to rephrase that. And maybe I wrote. Nate says, and maybe I wrote what I wrote to trigger everyone. LOL. Ah, dude. Seems like that you were putting forth. You know what? But you're lacing a whole lot of serious arguments in with this, Nate. From what I'm seeing here. Let's see. Zach says, not cool. Nate says, well, Hop wrote the stuff that triggered everyone. I mean, sure, but I guess the question would be of what parts of your thread are legitimate and which ones and which parts are just mere trolling, Nate. Because I want to keep on emphasizing that I asked you if you unironically believe in wage slavery, Nate, and you ignored that Twitter, that little tweet that I made. All right, I think we got, yeah, we got Pluto. I'll bring you in here in a moment, Pluto. But Nate, just for context's sake, I say in this tweet, what the fuck? You use the term wage slave unironically? Regardless of the term capitalism, I thought you at least knew better, Nate, realizing that employment is voluntary, not slavery. I mean, Nate, you could have like clarified by responding to at least that tweet by saying, I don't believe that wage slavery is a thing. I mean, simple as that. I mean, I know that you're freaking annoyed with me and all, Nate, but you could have at least addressed that. and you would have known that I would have calmed down at that point. Anyway, hello Pluto, how's it going?
I'm doing pretty good. You can hear me or no?
I can totally hear you, and I'm pretty sure that the speak right now actually.
Yeah, let's see. Make sure I'm not too loud because of my software plus the voice me a banana. But yeah, like
yeah, I turned down your volume, but it seems that OBS is picking up your audio, so that's cool.
Yeah, but basically, describe it in a nutshell is that like, how to put this properly? A lot of people think that I'm a mutualist sometimes. The best way to describe it is that I understand where they're coming from because I've read their work. But a lot of what you see on my timeline concerning mutualism, and I guess me defending it, is because I've had socialists tell me for years stuff that's just wrong about mutualism because they're Marxists. Even when they claim they're mutualists are Marxists as well. I've caught them doing this several times. From their language to how they view property to how they view free markets. It's like, oh, I'm a mutualist, but I hate free markets. Sure about that? Then you see pronouns in the bio. Pronouns. Oh, that's why. See, it's what it is. The pronouns. Yep, you're Marxist. Like, that's the thing. So, literally, like, once a week still, or every month or so, and these dumbass socialists, Marxists, called what they are, just say things like, well, that's not real socialism, because, you see, the Nazis freaking hate the freaking Russians. You see, they can't freaking be friends because they hate each other. Like, I've read the material already. Bro, what?
I mean, and for example, a lot of modern day capitalists do not really look at Pinochet as a role model of capitalism.
Yes.
Myself would be one of them.
I do too. I'm with you on that one, fam. Even though I understand where it's coming from, the freaking helicopter rides, I understand. But that's pretty much it, people, with that. You understand, for like 5 years, basically, I was even more now at this point. I've got a lot of like socialists trying to tell me I'm wrong, especially Marxists, about the stuff I've already read. They like trying to quote artists I've read and all that, you know what I mean? So it's like, bro, I've read this already. I'll quote this verbatim. That's out of context. I'll put the context. Well, the time period. Okay, here's the actual dictionary from that time period. Well, you understand, like, you guys don't read your own material. You don't read it. Like, for example, I've openly said for years, Engels is worse than Marx. Worse than Marx he is. Engels worse than Marx. Like,
Engels was what, Marx?
Worse than Marx. Way worse.
Oh,
in my opinion.
Worse than
way
Marx.
Worse.
Okay.
Yeah, way worse than Marx in my opinion. And people say, oh, why are these feminists so anti-family? Because they love Engels. That's why they love Engels. Like, it's that simple. Oh, it's not true. Oh, Engels literally said that being a wife is, we say what being a wife was again? Oh, right. That's about property. We know Marxists hate property. They do. So it's like, people, I read the stuff. I read it before. Like, so that's pretty much what my stance is. I'm not anti-capitalist. I don't use the term anymore because it's pointless using the term. Okay, use capitalism, right? And then what happens? Oh, well, it's a problem with capitalism. Okay, define capitalism. Define socialism. I always tell my critics, whatever, okay, to always define words before we even have discussions, because what they love doing is making a box, okay? It's very, very great. I love that shit, okay? So I don't do that bullshit at all anymore. I'm like, okay, if you're going to use these terms, define them.
Are you referring, when you say you should define your terms in your poll, and I use this in endearment, your whole rant right here, when you say you should define it, are you referring to socialists or capitalists or both?
Yes. Mostly socialists, both as well, because what happens is you will define capitalism, right? And then they'll be like, that's not real capitalism. It's like, bro, we need an understanding here. But what I realized over the years is that DC, all right, that's on purpose. They keep it gray on purpose, bro. They really do, because there are things about morality, and we all know morals are subjective. They are. So the whole, even though it's more better in theory, but people will die. People die because capitalism. People will die. I'm like, what about Marx? And well, they die because that's propaganda. That's just propaganda. It's like we can't have a clear discussion here, okay? What the young turds? What is this? Like, bro, like, oh God. It's so annoying. It's annoying, bro. It really is, because they never define things clearly on purpose. They know they're doing it too, because dumbass moral arguments, dumbass gray zone, all because it's emotional bullshit. Not about what you've read. It just feels on reels. Like, I have them really tell me things too, like, oh, economic principles, that's not really in practice. That's just a science. Things are always different. I'm like, or there'll be a famine, right? A famine because, price controls cause famine. They do. They just do because, I'm sorry, making bread in the wintertime costs more damn money than summertime. If the price costs more to fucking make the bread, they just sell that shit, they stop making bread. And then there's famine, and people die. You know what they said it is? Oh, it's the fall capitalism. The government enforced this. Well, that's no capitalism because the government protects the freaking corporations. Oh my god, like, bro. Or corporatism is capitalism. It's the same thing. Oh god, not this again.
Yeah. It's something that I constantly get in with Owen McDonald. Have you ever heard of Owen McDonald, by the way?
I think I have actually, yeah.
I mean, I know that I've made okay. Okay then, Nate. Maybe I'll give it to you, give the invite to you via Twitter. But yeah, I made like one response to video to him that done a little bit more popularly. I would have to possibly link it to you, maybe. Who knows? Although I made plenty of response videos to him as well. Sorry, what do you say?
Yeah. I get a lot of detractors on the African Marxists. So many of them, It's the same exact, 5 things. It's like wage slave this. Oh, exploitation. They love exploitation. They love that word. Oh, it's exploiting the worker because I'm big on passports and stuff. Oh, leaving the West. Oh, but you want to exploit the poor workers. Exploit the poor workers. I'm like, oh my god, that's about again. It's exploitation. People, it's all subjective. Okay, it's all subjective. Another thing too is exploiting the workers don't even realize the actual factories that they work in is safer than the regular work they did out of the factory in these third world countries. The fact. It's besides Indonesia, the damn Nike shoes and stuff, you know what I mean? But generally, factory work is safer and pays more for people there than their non-factory work. And it's a part of industrialization. The stages are inevitable. Everyone goes through it. It's a part of economics. But no, they want to skip that shit. They want to skip that part, but that's not how it works. But yeah, I did once a month or so. I have a socialist try to tell me I have listening too actually try to tell me I'm wrong about the minimum wage and you gotta understand they can pay higher. I'm like, please tell me you people understand how shit works, right? Or that net worth is cash.
Slavery. Slavery.
He's a billionaire, so he can literally feed so many people. That's his net worth. Not always money is liquid cash. That's not how it works. It's equity. But no, it's equity. And you just tax them more. They're going to leave. They will leave. It happened in France. They left. But they don't understand because, again, they've never taken finance class, no economic class. They don't want to understand how, the world works. They literally, okay, I'll call it what they are, fam. They're thieves, okay? Because I'm going to say this openly right now. Minimum wage is bullshit. But if minimum wage is a damn problem, then how come these companies aren't racing to the bottom? You ever notice that shit? In theory, would it make sense for the companies to race to the bottom and try to pay everyone much they can that minimum wage salary or job wage, whatever? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean most jobs nowadays start at $10.50 or something like that.
$10.50, yes. They don't race to the bottom. Why? You want to do that because if they sweep it down and say, oh, without minimum wage, people would just be picking $1 an hour. I'm like, okay, bet. If that's the case, then how come they are not racing to the bottom? How?
Yeah, that's my constant question to sock Dems and socialists, etc. And
sock Dems, call it tankies what they are. Call them they are tankies too. Oh, but I'm a Democratic socialist or social democrat. We're way different, by the way. We're not freaking people. You quoted Mao, you quoted freaking Trotsky. You're tankies. No, we're not. Right. Brain said the tanky too. The tanky, he is. So it was the tankies. They're all the tankies.
All right, so we got the man of the hour, guest of the hour, Nate the voluntarist on with us. So, Nate, what would you like to say to me first? I'll give you the word right now.
Well, how far have we come is his question. What would I miss?
Not a whole lot. I think it's I don't know. He's been on here for 10 minutes or something like that. Or you talk about how far along have I gone with analyzing tweets?
About tweets, I mean.
Oh, come analyzing tweets? Well, I'm pretty much almost done with them. I'm actually halfway through your part 2 of anti-capitalism, whatnot. Like I read my little thesis, my little short thesis about how I don't get the whole anti-capitalism label, and then there was a little argument that you and I had that one time. Then I read Pluto's thread that was against socialism, and then read your part 1, completed that, and now I'm like over halfway your part 2. So,
okay.
I guess one question would be, like, just for clarification, you don't unironically believe that hiring somebody, that employment is a form of wage slavery or slavery of any kind. Am I getting that right?
Never made that claim. Never made that claim. At all. Never made that claim.
So if I may just say that it's kind of sloppy wording, the one tweet right here, I don't know if you can see it. Let me pull this tab over here. What were you about to say, though?
I don't know what people are driving at, but I never said anything like that. At all. And I think people are going to have a hard time finding stuff that indicates that I have ever made a claim such as that.
Okay, that's not it right there. He was opposed to wage labor, wanting that social relationship destroyed by turning capital over to those who work in it as associate producers and not as wage slaves. You say, and not as wage slaves. It almost, you say that in such a way that almost makes it come off that you believe it yourself.
I'm merely quoting from what Spooner said. That's not me. Well, that's him.
I don't see the quotation marks, though.
Okay, well, I'm sorry I didn't do that.
All right,
I'm sorry you misunderstood.
All right. I mean, I put that one tweet in response to you asking, do you actually believe in wage slavery? Like, why is it that you did not respond to just that one to sort of clarify? This one right here, I don't know if you can see it or not.
Oh, that I just didn't bother. So I was going to do a special on my show addressing all of this, but I guess here we are now.
Oh, we can still have that later stream, I guess. It's just that I'm sorry. It's just that me personally, I was getting tired of it sort of being put off consistently.
Well, I apologize for that because I needed a month off from my show, so yeah. But my show's coming back this month. Everyone, I will be doing a one-on-one interview with a journalist, in case you're all wondering, and then I'll be doing another stream with Gary and Roderick Long, and then hopefully we can do this special. We'll see. And of course, DarkCon, if you're still up for doing a show with Eric Brakey, would really love to do that.
Sure. And I guess I should clarify, because I meant to put this as part of the disclaimer now that I really remember it. But I was not going forward with this live stream with the intent of making enemies or declaring outright war on you in the same way that I do with Owen McDonald. I mean, I'm going to put up...
I understand.
Yeah, even though that I sounded kind of frustrated and angry at times throughout this live stream, grant you, I still want to put out that disclaimer. And to sort of put more context to that disclaimer, like when I used to been on... okay, me and S-Man are currently on fair terms, I guess we could say, but when we were even on even better terms in the past, like 2017, namely, we were doing response videos back and forth to each other. Well, actually, he was doing more response videos to me, actually. They were, I guess I could admit, a little bit more cordial than I was right here during this entire live stream, and in spite of that, we still were good sports with our responses back and forth to one another.
All right, good. Glad to hear.
But my thing with the whole anti-capitalist label, like I said earlier in this live stream, the thing that I have, like, again, I don't have a problem if you don't want to call yourself a capitalist of any sorts anymore. I know that Pluto said right here that he doesn't call himself one, but just the thing that really gets me about this whole debate is that you would call yourself an anti-capitalist, that you call yourself against capitalism, and then of course I call myself and other people of, you know, the same, at least similar enough free market beliefs as you. We call ourselves capitalists, and it's almost like that you just you're giving yourself a title that says that you are like against the core beliefs that we have, and I just think it's bad optics in general. But I don't know what you have to say in response to that.
Well, it's kind of like the issue with Stefan Kinsella and his opposition to intellectual property. I mean, in his quote-unquote debate with Robert Wenzel, you know, Robert's still associating intellectual property with private property rights, but Stefan is trying to point out that intellectual property has nothing to do with private property rights. It's a state creation. It's a form of mercantilism. Mercantilism is also a hot button issue if you want to discuss that with me. So it's kind of like, you know, you could try making, it's kind of like a feminist trying to make the case that feminism is about women's equality, but feminists don't want equality. They want to be superior. And so every time they pull out the dictionary definition, this is what feminism is. It's about equality of men and women. Like, no, don't give me that. Don't give me that. Based on what I am seeing, you want the state to have more power over men. Mm-hmm. And guess what? Here's what's funny. They like to complain about the patriarchy that we supposedly live under. But guess who makes up the majority of voters?
Women.
It's women.
Yes.
It's always women. Listen, Nate, you already know, fam. Okay, like I consider myself a feminist studier, a study of femology. Okay, out here, all right. They've always been crazy. They were all bad. Just the third wave was bad. No, they're all bad. Every wave was bad of feminism. Okay, they're all crazy. They were all crazy. All right, they burned down first wave. They were terrorists. Terrorists. Okay, they burned down things. Okay, like no, they're all crazy. Okay, they always were. Like, and again, we know why. Feminism comes from progressivism, the progressive movement, and that comes from Engels. Okay, just it's never ever been about equality ever. It's a fact.
So about the whole Stephen Kinsella thing, like for that to run in tangent with sort of what I said about you taking up the anti-capitalist label for yourself. I mean, Stephen Kinsella, is he like he's against intellectual property laws? Is that what you're trying to imply there with what you said?
Yeah, he's against all of it. All patent and copyright laws. He's against all of it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Right. Oh, I was meaning like he's against the laws that protect this thing that we call "quote unquote" intellectual property, but he's not against. I mean, maybe a bit of a stupid question, but all the same, he was not against the mere concept of people being able to post something, draw or post something that could potentially be copied whole cloth by someone else without technically having to barter for it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right. I
mean, it's kind of. I mean, people are trying to. Well, it's kind of like this, and this is the same analogy that he would use with the intellectual property. You can't really steal someone's ideas. It's kind of like saying, Joe Smith stole my girlfriend, but he didn't steal your girlfriend. You want to know? Yeah, you want to know why? You want to know why? Because she chose to go with him. And plus, you do not own her, and she's not your property. You see what I'm saying? It's kind of like. I mean, it's kind of like my position on borders. You know, I got a lot of people mad at me on borders because I support private borders. I'm against both open and closed borders.
Private borders, you know how that shit is, man. That shit, private borders. Oh no, like, so you tell me you can just put an island around my house and I can't leave? Oh jeez. Ridiculous.
I mean, that's the thing, I mean, I show my position, and then people like Brian Kaplan are trying to tell me, oh, well, that's the same position, No, it's not. It's not at all. You want to know why? Because I'm not asking government to open or close the borders. Okay, and not only that, the only legitimate borders is the wall or the fence around my house. Okay, I paid for it. I didn't have to pay taxes or whatever. I paid for it myself, and my neighbors are okay with it. They're cool with it. We all agree to it. We got our own space. I got my space. No big whatever. Yes.
Right.
People will never get it. They'll never.
I guess. Yeah. I mean, I can understand what you're saying about private borders, but I guess the thing that I wanted to say earlier was is that I don't see really. I would have to think about why I think this, but I don't exactly see of how that being taking up the anti-capitalist label when you're not against what I conceive to be capitalism in reality, anyways. To be equivalent to Stephen Kinsella saying I am against copyright laws.
Well, I mean, people are trying to say that Stefan is against private property rights when it comes to IP. So, in my case,
well, he's not taking up that label.
But he's not. No, he's not against private property rights at all.
Nate, you know why, Nate? It's the way that these dumbass Marxists define shit, bro. That's how it's all about. How they always define shit, bro. Is why they always say that shit. Oh, well, then you're against people. Oh, you want for intellectual property? Then you're against it. Then if you don't support the fucking laws in place, how you not going to support the laws in place and be free market? Then how'd that work? Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So. So the issue at hand, in my case, is that capitalism describes a production model, but not markets. Now, the definition, people can keep pulling up the dictionary definition all the time, but then I keep reading in economics. I read books, I read articles, I read columns, I've done further reading. And I haven't been able to make a connection between markets and capitalism. So,
or at least
until you read Marx, then all of a sudden that big old reach happened with them Marx, the huge reach.
Yeah.
Are you saying that you cannot read the connection? Are you referring to back in the olden days, like the Victorian and Industrial Revolution eras?
Yes.
What do you mean?
Yes.
Wait. I mean, you explain. Someone explain.
When you go saying that you haven't read any literature that goes to connecting capitalism to free markets, you're primarily referring to you haven't read any literature from the Victorian era and Industrial Revolution that makes that connection. That's what you're primarily referring to, right?
Not necessarily. I'm basically just saying. I mean, I have already experienced being an ANCAP. All right, so I've seen it all. But now I'm kind of like, oh, there's probably more to it than most of us would think. So that's where I'm kind of going with my thinking process, and of course I'll address it some more in my special.
All right. I mean, because the thing that I would say in response to what you said earlier is that I have read, even this Investopedia article you could consider as literature, because it's like a whole article. It's not just a definition, but I just read the first part, talking about as to how that capitalism and free markets do run in tangent with one another. Like, where does it get further down in the root of that sort of rhetoric? Like, I do not know who exactly, specifically, tried to start that trend of saying that capitalism and free markets are synonymous with each other, essentially. But all the same,
the Marxists. It was the Marxists. They did. It was them. That's your answer. Yeah. It was the Marxists.
Well, they also have said that capitalism is corporatism, or capitalism is
because make it gray. See, when it's a big old brush, everyone gets painted. Make it as gray as possible. But clearly, if you read Proudhon, that's not the case. If Peter Tucker is not the case. They clearly define that shit. It literally, again, people said for months now, era is key, context is king, because capitalism with Proudhon, the reason why they said it anti-property is because that literally is the way that the absolutists, right, the reactionaries too, how they define shit. Their method is mercantilism, which is also called state capitalism. They literally say that people are property. Openly say this shit in front of our faces. They say people are property. So when someone like Proudhon says, no, that's theft, because no, you're not going to steal my body, the Marxists say, you see? You see? This is, you can't have it because think of what Proudhon said. That's not what Proudhon said. That's not what he said. That is not what he said. And y'all know this too, okay? It's because they don't consider the context. See, if you look at mutualist literature, okay, they say a lot of we, okay, a lot of we. You wanna know why I say a lot of we? Because under the crowd is a lot of I. Because again, absolutism, I, the crowd, one person, okay? So the opposite of I is we. So that critical information is always left out of the conversation on purpose. It always is. Spooner, again, Benjamin Tucker, Proudhon, that we is referring to the body, to actual body. That's what it refers to. That we is referring to the people who the crown claims they own. That's the we. But this part is always not discussed ever. I can clearly read this shit because, all right, I give you an example. All right, let me say, okay, what a socialist? What means of production? What does that mean? When the workers own the means of production, the crown does not. Like for me, it's obvious. It's like this is basic fucking language here because the means of production that was owned by the crown. Okay, even the owners of the company, that's the bourgeois. That's the crown's hand. So when the workers who are not part of that bourgeois own the means of production, all right, that means that people like you, me, and Nate, we can own it because we're not part of the authoritarian class. But this part, again, is always skipped over. It's always misled on purpose. Oh, because of the dumbass fucking Marxist bullshit. I don't fucking read this shit. Just for years now. And it all makes sense because it goes together then, okay? If they mean we, as in the class of people that's not part of, the absolute authoritarian rule, then it all falls in place. It all makes sense. But they're doing this on purpose, fam. That's all it is.
Okay.
But Pluto, you don't understand. Proudhon is a state socialist. You don't understand, man.
Okay, so
yeah, they always do that.
Oh, it never ends, bro. Gee.
I guess an expansion of what I said earlier. I've read both the Praxeology article and the One Lysander Spooner article that you had tweeted directly to me, Nate. And by the way, FYI, that Praxeology article took me weeks to read off and on between.
So long, dude. Jeez.
It's a lot to take in. We have a hard life as libertarians.
So long,
but
man.
nonetheless, reading that and even reading your tweets, I don't see as to what is the hard-hitting, conclusive argument that I should definitely abandon the term of capitalism, because it's kind of like. I would hate to bring up his name to you, but I agree with the Scorch on this. Definitions can change over time, and if capitalism if capitalism meant something rather malicious when Marx and or Louis Blanc or whatever his name is first invented it, well then yeah, I don't like that. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that it couldn't have changed over time, and ultimately, it did change over time. So, and just in the same way that
okay, I can explain this why. By the way, I can explain it why. The triangle. I love the triangle so much. The triangle explains why they do that shit on purpose. Okay, it's very obvious.
Wait a minute. It explains why I should abandon the term capitalism.
No, why they do that shit. Why they do. Okay, if you look at the triangle, it all makes sense. The reason why
wait.
The political triangle.
What do you mean by they? Are you talking about all the
leftists, the Marxists, them, the BSers, the Marxists? Okay, the reason why the Marxists say that shit, I'll tell you the truth. Okay, it's because political triangle, right? They're on the they're on the left. There's no such thing as a right wing. Does not exist basically. Okay, it's left and counter left. But to the Marxists.
Pluto, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I just want to slow you down a bit. I wasn't referring to the definition was changed over time by Marxists. Capitalism went from a negative term that Marxists use all the time to becoming a more positive, more free market-ish term nowadays. When I was saying by the they, I was referring to all the capitalists, all the pro-capitalism people, not all the anti-capitalism people that want to use it for negative, a negative connotation.
All right, let me see if I can find my triangle really quick. But I can explain this. It comes down to how they view shit, okay? You see, to the leftist, the individualist and the absolutist right look the exact same. They look the exact same because it's literally just as far away from each other. So in their eyes, well, the absolutist crown and the individual thinker, they're the same thing. They're the same thing because they're both Darwinistic. They're both Darwinistic, therefore, they're the same thing. That's what it comes down to. It's that simple. So whether it's corporatism, capitalism, free market, in their eyes, same thing. Because it's unfair to people because Darwin. That's the whole argument in a nutshell. No bullshit.
Right.
And that's literally what it's about. And it's annoying too because it's like, bro, y'all literally are quoting people you never read. The context y'all in a year doesn't even matter because it's like, oh, well, back then it's just like now because people are still suffering and they're dying and it's unfair. Therefore, it's the same thing. That's why capitalism, whether it's in 1800s or today, is the same thing because there's people unfairly get screwed over that to work these jobs that want to. It's wage slavery. Oh, it's ridiculous. Never ends, man. It never ends.
Yeah, I would say that argument as to the nature of free markets and whether they should exist, that exists outside of the whole terminology debate. Personally, I was trying to more address the terminology side of things, as opposed to the existence of free markets and what am I trying to say? As opposed to the existence of free markets and their effects on human rights, as socialists would go on about.
Oh my god, that shit. They always rebrand the fucking communism, bro. Always rebranded. Human rights, climate change. That was the Great Reset. It's all communism, okay? It is all communism. That's what it is.
Right. Did we lose you, Pluto?
I'm still here. What's up?
Okay, never mind. For some reason, you stopped kind of suddenly. It almost sounded like that your mic might have completely cut out. Like I might have lost your connection or something.
By time wonder, honestly.
It's just that the mic is that good.
The mic is...
Remember what you told me, Pluto, when you interviewed me? You know, your mic is that good.
Oh yeah, definitely that good, man.
Well, I guess I'll I don't know. I guess I'll save this Twitter thread for some other time. Maybe I'll save it. Maybe I'll save this Twitter thread, like the remainder of it, anyways, for the actual capitalism special and the rest of the gripes that I have with it, Nate. But
I mean, the second thread merely attempts to tie Pluto's thread and my first thread together.
It's for the Marxists, basically, for the annoying ass Marxists who keep saying we're wrong about, oh, you gotta read fucking, oh, you gotta read Engels, you gotta read fucking, Bazak, gotta read these people. I've read them already. I have. Oh, I'll read this over here again. I have. It's what he said. Yes, it is. So we make these threads.
To me, Engels.
Yes. What's up?
I mean, to me, Engels sounded more like Antichrist.
I think he is, honestly.
Did you say Antichrist?
Yeah,
yes,
man,
yes. And Woodrow Wilson, he was like reincarnation. So was John McCain.
Oh,
and I would say George Bush as well. You know, because of all the government stuff that he passed before Obama came in and then expanded upon it. You know, he's yeah.
Rest in peace to George McCain's tumor. You're an American hero. You'll be in our hearts forever, McCain's tumor. Always.
Oh god.
But yeah, the threads basically are for Marxists that I know shit out of us because for years they keep telling us we haven't read articles we already read and shit, bro. It's so annoying. It's absolutely infuriating too.
I mean, merely my threads are addressing, basically going after the Marxists as well, because I'm sick and tired of playing this game of guess the right definition. And it's like, I'm not gonna play your bullshit games with you. I mean, go away.
They define shit too, man. Like, bro, I'll put it okay. It's always the same arguments. Oh, X is not socialist because he killed Y. That's corporatism is capitalism, bro. What do they say too? Oh, exploiting workers this, bro. It's the same like shit. Oh, my human rights. My free freeze. give me that, okay? Like, the same exact shit. My thing is too, or my favorite, okay? This shit to me is my favorite. It's the whole, well, X country, look at them. They have Y. Leave. I can't leave. I won't leave. I shouldn't have to leave. My friends and the family are here. Thank you, Californian. Thank you. Thank you, Californian. And you've been very nice, okay? You won't go to freaking Sweden, but love Sweden. Okay, that's how it works. Like, yeah. Let's go to Texas, rural Texas. Yeah, we'll go to Texas, man. We'll go to Texas, everyone. We'll go to Texas right now, ruin that shit. Yeah, we'll go to Texas. Yeah, we'll go to Texas. Oh, Arizona too? Go to Arizona as well. Yeah, for Arizona. Let's do that shit.
Hey, by the way, I'm getting a little bit of a request in the live chat. Zachary Colley says, DarkCon, have Pluto read his quote in the chat.
Yeah, do it.
Let's see. Leave the Marxists alone. Yeah, what I keep telling y'all, leave the Marxists alone. You gotta do it, fam. You got to.
Too late. I actually actually arranged a debate with the Marxists tomorrow.
Oh my God, why you hate yourself? You put something wrong with your life? You're that bad in life, man? Like, you go down sad, bro. Damn, why? Did I finish, bro? Like a pain kink out there? What the fuck? Like, jeez.
Because I like to debate my opposition.
They were, god damn, bro. Like, they're so, like, my thing is, okay, they be, I'm an ANCOM, right? But I'm free healthcare. I'm like, that makes no damn sense at all. How does it make any sense? Well, the thing is, it's taking back to the workers. The fuck does that mean? Back to the workers?
I mean, let me put it this way. If it comes down tomorrow to me and the Marxists just saying back and forth to each other, I'm gonna fucking kill you for your property. Well, I will fucking kill you if you try to take my property. Well,
I forgot.
Let the blood flow. The internet blood sports.
Property? No, it's personal property, not private property.
Oh, I'm sure that we'll get into that. I sort of hope to get into that.
Look, my advice to anybody who would ever dare debate a tanky is you always should quote from Proudhon, okay? You gotta read Proudhon. You want to know why? Because they will always pull up this, he says that property is theft. But no, he meant of the crown. People, do you not understand how context is important here? Do you not understand that part?
So Proudhon was, when he said that property is theft, he was saying that the crown was stealing property.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. He was not going up against private property rights at all. Okay? He wasn't doing that. People always do. They'll never get it. I can
prove that shit too, because literally, okay, under absolutist rule, the crown's rule, literally people are property. It's literally in their actual doctrine.
Well,
it's right there.
If I was to get a little bit critical of Proudhon, no offense, I'd say that was kind of a clumsy way for him to get his point across of how that property was stolen from the crown. Like, property, and this is what I had to say in response to the one debate that Esso and Filthy had against Wes Savage and Colton a couple weeks ago. Have you guys seen that debate?
I've seen a little bit.
No, I don't care.
I saw a little bit.
Well, in that debate, Esso and I wrote, I don't know of what exactly fully he was meaning by the saying of property is theft. He was saying property is theft in the midst of a spiel talking about as how that private property is a legitimate thing to be defending invaders on, even with violence. But the same thing that I kind of said about Esso, I'm going to say about Proudhon. Like, property is an object, it's not an action, whereas violence is a okay, no, Esso said property is violence, not property is theft. You guys are saying that Proudhon says that property is theft, but property is an object, or at least potentially. Anyways, most of the time, no, I'm just gonna stick with that. Property is an object. Violence and theft are an action, immoral actions too. So it just, that line of logic doesn't really make sense to me. And even if I was to try to give more lenience to the both of them, Esso and Proudhon, like, not all the times for a person to get their property have they had to steal it from somebody else. And not all the times does a person have to defend their property violently. So
that's fair, honestly. But again, people keep forgetting time period. When people like to quote Proudhon and Benjamin Tucker and such, they keep forgetting that literally, again, people were considered property under the crown. This literally how it worked. Like, I'm not lying about this shit. This is why they call it theft, because it's like, all right, if the crown owns you, they own your body. They your farm. I take your farm from you. You give food. You give food to the king. Cause I say so. Absolutism in a nutshell. But then they say, see, this is why it's property. Property is theft. I'm like, you have no idea what you're quoting at all, do you? Okay, read people. All you gotta do is read the Crown. Read like King Louis XV, whatever. Read their doctrines, and it all makes sense immediately. Why Proudhon exists? Why Spooner exists? Like, it makes perfect sense. All the context falls in place because the certain thing they quote is like they say the crown too. They reference the crown, reference the state and stuff. They reference like the world class, the bourgeois. That literally is part of the crown's like hand. It all falls together, but just that part's always ignored. It's never mentioned, always sidestepped. I've had little people who couldn't be quote unquote mutualists, okay? Mutualists, I'd be like, okay, bet. Then how come Marx did not like Proudhon? What do you mean? They got along just fine. Why did Marx put a whole book against Proudhon? Why? This is always ignored because Marx basically was property. That's like, you know, people themselves shouldn't own shit. Free market. No, we can't have that shit. We can't have that. People owning their own shit for labor. No, it should be a collective of a commune. You know, a commune. It goes in stages where we take we centralize the goods and stuff and redistribute them. But that's not a state though. That's not government though, because government goes away when it's all finished though. Just so dumb, bro. So dumb. Every day.
But meanwhile, no. Proudhon is a state socialist. He wants to control the means of production with the state. He never fucking said that. He never. Oh god.
Oh, they said that shit so much, bro. Proudhon, he wants to control. And it's him and Black. His friend, the mutualist, him. Oh, they're trying to control the means of production. They're closet authoritarians. They control it. That's why they for free markets. You see, they're trying to control shit. It's all no people. You just gotta read the books. Read the book. They're free. They're free online. You read the books and stuff. Like they mention the crown. They mention the rule. They mention how shit cannot be owned by a person. Again, workers own the means of production, included the actual owner of the stuff too. If you were a business owner, you were a worker on the means of production as well. You can actually own your shit, but this is always ignored. Always left out the conversation.
Yeah, they do that. They do that with Hoppe. You know, when he's talking about fiscal removal, he's saying you can do that on your own private property. He's not talking about in a libertarian society altogether. People. Oh my gosh! And then I read the critiques.
You say that people can kick gay people out of their own house because they don't like two people of the same sex kissing each other. Oh, that must mean that he wants it in general society too.
I mean, it's about freedom of association. It's about freedom of association. You get to associate with who you want.
Yeah.
That's I mean, people, and of course, when I read the critiques on Hoppe, and I got his book, Democracy: The God That Failed. It's one of the best books I've ever read. It's one of the best.
It honestly is, man. Straight up.
Yeah, and I read it, and then I'm trying to compare it with the critiques, and I'm like, that's not what he said. Ugh.
It's not. It never is, but it's so funny. It's never what he said. It's always like out of context shit, false quoting. Like it's like, bro, he didn't say this shit.
It's like what are you reading Wikipedia? Are you like pulling off quotes off the internet when you Google search? Is that what you're doing? Oh, he says this. Oh, yeah.
That's the thing though, because all comes down to these people. I know what it's about. Okay, let's call them what they are. A bunch of fucking thieves. Okay, they're a bunch of thieves. They are lazy behind thieves. They want the free shit off of other people. So it comes down to it's unfair how so-and-so has more because, you know, Nate, that people are rich because you're poor, right? Because a pie is a fixed pie, Nate. The fixed pie, Nate. Yeah. It's annoying, bro. The fixed pie policy, that one never ends too. They think wealth is finite, fam. No bullshit. Like wealth is supposed to be this finite thing. No, wealth is literally a spectrum. It is by definition. It's a spectrum. If okay, living standards, okay? Here's the
I
thing.
mean, yeah, if people are going to expand the definition of wealth to being more than just capital and money, you know, like wealth of potatoes or other sorts of supplies essential for living and survival and even recreational living, you know?
You know how poverty is defined in Sweden and shit? It's absolute terms. It's like you make less than $2 a day, you're poor as shit in Sweden. But in America, it's relative terms. Relative. So let's do basic logical 101. If poverty is relative, will it ever be solved? No. No. Because whether you have a damn TV, a big house, someone has more than you, so you're poor. That's all on purpose. That's why having relative terms is fucking stupid for poverty. It's dumb as shit. Okay? It never ends because, but the bottom 20%, what if they all have a mansion? Then what happens? They're still poor by relative terms. Because Bezos has 3 mansions. You have 1 mansion. So you're poor. The fuck? It's stupid. We use absolute terms, but no, they never do this shit at all. It's always relative, gray ass, misleading ass terms, fuse over reels, fucking moral bullshit. It's never absolute black and white direct shit. Never is.
But by the way, I got a couple of questions for Nate in regards of his anti-capitalism. If we get a pausing moment.
Oh, okay.
Like I guess the default. Okay, my default assumption is that. No, you're not for this, Nate, but just to ask sort of for confirmation. I guess the pinnacle definition of what capitalism would be of a capitalist within an anarchist society would be somebody, you know, capitalizing off of resources and whatnot. A business tycoon, let's say, for example. Hiring people, owning lots of resources, sometimes even excessive amounts of resources, you know, that kind of stuff. But just to clarify, you're not for seizing that sort of stuff from the business tycoon, right?
I never said anything like that, so no.
All right.
Should be obvious.
Yeah, I mean, that was what I thought, but I thought I'd just ask for extra clarification ever since that's still like a small thing that kind of itched in my head ever since this whole anti-capitalism, ever since the anti-capitalism argument started between us and whatnot. And also, I wanted to ask that for clarification because I know that somebody in my live chat, not going to name names, keeps on insisting that you are at least secretly, for seizing, private property and means of production.
What do people just want me to hold a position that I do not hold? This is the same thing happening with Eric July. This is the same thing with Eric July. This is the same thing with Eric July. He had a stupid guy coming on saying, you wanted to have violent revolution in the market. Like, oh, shut up. He never said anything like that. I followed him for the last 5 years. He's never advocated for any of that. So why are, oh my gosh, people.
Because they're thieves.
Do I need to start... Yeah, I mean, do I need...
thieves.
I mean, what do I need to do? Do I need to start doing what Eric July does? You know, bringing on all these people together? I mean, what the heck?
I don't know.
Eric July, bro, like, literally, Eric July is a very, very basic, simple, deconstructed version of anarcho-capitalism. It's very easy to follow, understand, okay?
Yeah.
Like, Texas. You live in Texas too, DC, right? Texas as well. These damn fucking, look at young turds. Shank yogurt, know what I mean? Okay, yogurt, okay? This man is celebrating Texas grid. You see, y'all, it's the fall of capitalism and property. I'm glad y'all left California. Now you're freaking down and suffering. I'm like, this is the first time this has ever happened in Texas ever. Upon ever. But in California, every summertime is rolling blackouts. Every summertime. And two, that whole grid is all state controlled. The fuck you talking about? Just...
By the way, about Shank Uger, you mean Chunk Shrek Yogurt.
Yeah, and about what I said to you, Nate, because I know that, by extension of that, I know that there are a lot of people who have been, or not a lot of people, but at least a handful of people ever since, or in the aftermath of that debate that Esso and Filthy had, that some people were basically strawmanning them that they are for violent seizure of private property ever since Esso made that bumbling quote of property is violence. Like,
I don't know. I don't know what he believes or what he's up to. So,
well, I
don't listen to him anymore. So.
Oh damn.
I stopped following him a long time ago, so I really don't care.
Sorry that I mentioned him, but I guess
don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
I guess sort of just for the sake of conversation, though, like I listened to that entire debate myself, and I never got the implication. Like I said in my review of that debate, I never got the implication, and I've never even heard the words at all that Esso, advocates for violent seizure of private property. Just it was a bumbling quote in the middle of a big old word salad spiel where that he was trying to say essentially that defense of private property is legitimate. But yeah. So I guess the second question that I have for you, Nate, like within your anti-capitalism, is it that big a ultimately, do you think it's that big a deal if people are still going to call themselves capitalists? And hello, SB, in the live chat.
I mean, look, I never said that this is what you must believe. Okay, I'm just addressing where my thinking is going. You can either take it or leave it. It's up to you. Whatever people want to do. Besides, it's not my job to tell people what they can and cannot think.
Okay. That's one question that I've posed to multiple times on Twitter. I thought I'd just ask it here live. But thanks for answering all my questions, though, by the way.
No problem, bro.
Honestly, it's better to use the term free market anarchist than use capitalist. It'll save you a lot of headaches. Just trust me on that one, fam. I don't use libertarian anymore. I say post-libertarian because we all know how Marxists be. They take terms in for themselves, like Columbus. Oh, we coined libertarian, then the libertarians stole from us. The first one did it first. It was us. We coined capitalist. No, we coined liberal. No, they didn't. Progress. No. They always take shit from people, always. So I make sure that I'm never, ever in relation to them. Never am. Because, let's see, Nate, they call themselves liberal, progressive, libertarian, what do they say now, too? Something about environmentalist? Yeah, environmentalist.
Socialist. They do that with socialists as well. They're doing that with socialists.
What they got too? Oh, man, let's see. Oh, yeah, feminist. Don't forget feminist, the OG. Give that one. Egalitarian. Take that back. Let me see. Let's pretty much insert term here is basically communism. Pretty much it is. Okay, all roads go to communism. This company are commies. Okay, Democrat, socialist, or social democrat, because they're way different, Nate. They're way different. Oh my God, even though the red flag with the hand, it's way different. Oh God.
But libertarianism is communism because Joseph Jacques is the first person to use the term libertarian. Lie. Okay?
Not true.
I'm
okay, Shane Killian.
yeah, I know.
Joseph Ballsack, yeah. I'm just Joseph Ballsack, I call him.
And this is and Proudhon did not like Jacques. They didn't like each other.
Oh no. Like no, just because Jacques was a fucking Marxist. No, it's like yes.
Yeah. The first person to use the word libertarian was William Belsham. Okay, look him up. He even wrote about it.
Damn,
I read it.
I still have to read that fucking article that you sent me too. By the way, I have it saved in a WordPad. Just big time procrastinator in general, but I'm especially a procrastinator when it comes to reading. Let me see if I can scroll down to it because it's a big ass WordPad I have it saved on.
I think I know what you're talking about, but
oh, it was okay. It was a Wikipedia article, actually.
Wikipedia?
I don't know. I did. Mate, I think it was Wikipedia that you sent me via Discord, and then I just saved it.
I never send Wikipedia. WordPad. I never used Wikipedia as my source at all, ever. Wikipedia is a scam. If people are using Wikipedia to back up what they're saying, they're idiots. Okay, I'm sorry, but they are. Because it's lazy. It's lazy to use Wikipedia as your source. Okay, it's lazy.
Yup.
I think I know. I think I know what article you're talking about because I shared an article that was written by a minarchist that rejects the term capitalism.
A minarchist that rejects capitalism?
Yeah.
In the term, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a British libertarian. He's still in office right now. Man, he's probably pissing everybody off in the British House of Commons. I can imagine. I mean, you know how the British House of Commons is like, right? You know how they are when they're debating, when they're having all these discussions.
They end up brawling with each other.
Yeah. Yes. it makes for a more interesting. It makes you want to watch it. It's just hilarious. But it's a differently ran system anyway. I mean, we kind of started off with that when America started, but then over time we just made it more formal or something or whatever.
I mean, it used to be a federalist system, which was amazing. The federalist system was great because it's taught kind of poorly in school, but in the federalist system, it'd be like, you know what, the state over here, I don't like it. Okay, these dumbass California bullshit, the New York fucking Marxist bullshit. I don't want to deal with this shit. I'm gonna go somewhere else and not, pay for someone's healthcare, pay for the damn taxes. I'm gonna go Arizona. Nope, not anymore. Pretty much this overbearing federal government, it pretty much dictates small states' rights. That shit never would be the rule ever. But
By the way, I sent you an invite link to my Discord server, Pluto, in case you're interested.
Let me see. Sure thing. Yeah. We build Discord more too, but I'm not on Discord much like I used to be, because I'm a wage cuck over here.
You're a what?
A wage cuck over here. Not a slave, a wage. Different ways to cuck and a slave. I'm a cuck to my job. There's a difference. There's a difference. I'm a wage cuck, people.
Does that mean that I'm a wage cuck for
we're all wage cucks.
Staying we're all wage cucks. 9-to-5 job?
Yes, we're all wage cucks, everyone.
We're always
wage
cucks. And this is coming from the black-pilled alpha male MGTOW right here, folks.
Yep, there you go.
The black-pilled alpha male MGTOW is saying it himself. He's calling himself a cuck.
Yep, there we go. Yep.
The grandest irony of all, folks.
The internet. Boomerism 101. There you go.
The internet just exploded.
Yeah. Boomerism 101. That's all it is. Boomerism 101.
But I'm just joking on that front. Yeah.
We all are though cucks though for our jobs. So it's call it is, man. Like my job, man. Long story short, schedule get changed. My schedule sucks, fam. It still is bad. I got a horrible schedule. It's a really bad schedule, bro. You'd be like, bro, what? What kind of hours are those? I'm like, they're bad hours, man. They're bad hours. Like, really bad. But I have a choice because these bills are not free, so. But.
I mean, unless you really do legitimately land something that you like.
I will soon, believe me. It's going to happen like a couple months from now, but like, it's just the hours, bro. Like, even if it was like overnight, it'd be better than this shit. These hours are like, what the fuck, bro? Not hours, no, like really bad, but God.
Hey, by the way, I think I might just end the stream right here since we're kind of winding down on the political dialogue,
Perfect.
Yeah, we'll discuss this some more in my stream
in March.
Hopefully in March. I can't promise, but hopefully.
All right. And by the way, I just want to say for the record to Nate here and even Pluto for that matter, but to be honest, I think I was far more in general vitriolic towards Nate than Pluto earlier in this live stream. Honestly, I mean, I refrain from the insults ultimately, but if you go listening back on this live stream, Nate trying to catch up or pick up on anything that I said, and you want to talk about it later on in DMs, I'll respond to it.
All right.
Yeah, and of course we'll have more to address on your version of the whole capitalism versus anti-capitalism live stream.
And of course, we're gonna kind of have to go over Pluto's thread as well, because we kind of need it for context.
The
way,
socialism thread, or did he make another thread?
Yeah, because we need the full picture. People need to understand what's going on.
All right. Anyway, for all of you who have stuck around this long for watching this live stream, for all of you who have watched this live stream in post, please click that like button down below. I noticed that I got like at least 3 dislikes down there. I mean, I knew what I was getting into for responding to a fellow content creator that I share a lot of subscribers with, but nonetheless, I had a lot of things that I wanted to get off my chest sooner rather than later, just in general. But ultimately, for any of y'all who did appreciate the dialogue and everything, don't forget to hit that like button down below, and don't forget to hit subscribe, and also check out my BitChute and Patreon if you're even that much committed to my content and whatnot. And hope to see you all later. And again, tune in tomorrow, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm going to be debating a Marxist. Nobody particularly big. It's just a rando that I came across on Discord, honestly. And I thought I'd take the textual Discord argument onto a more live and audio format, you know? So, with that said, what do you two have to say in farewell?
Government sucks.
Yep.
Leave the West. There we go.
I knew you were gonna say that. I knew you were gonna say that.
You know what's going to, bro. You already knew I was going to. Like, I'm serious about shit too, bro. I'm gonna leave about 10 years tops. Okay, straight up.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking about leaving too. I gotta go. I gotta leave.
Bro, Singapore seems cool, but damn, bro, it's so expensive, man. Like, God, but like a belated
though I am considering Panama.
Yeah, I might go to Panama or Malaysia and shit. Honestly,
I wouldn't mind moving to an African country so that then I can be more guaranteed to pick up myself a big booty black chick.
Just be white. Just be white.
No, but in all seriousness, I do not know of exactly where that I would move to as an alternative of the United States. Switzerland and South Korea kind of piqued my interest, but nonetheless, anyway, that's all that we have to say here, folks. Thank you all for watching, and good night. God bless. Don't forget the debate tomorrow, and